favorite song. He loves this bump, Outlaw Radio Network. Thanks for checking out the show tonight. St. Paul, the voice of reason.
Bite me. I'm so... All I said to Caleb, right? Now, you have to understand, Caleb and the guys here with Edge Media and especially Outlaw have spent a lot of time and a lot of money and put a lot of passion and a lot of heart into building this studio. Well, we literally converted the strips downstairs, okay?
Yeah.
My bonus room.
And his backyard is beautiful. It's immaculate. It's like all...
I've never been back there before.
It's got this beautiful pond and statues and this nice little concrete area and stuff. Well, there have been several weddings back there for friends and family, and he had a wedding back there today.
By the way, it is for rent.
The back?
Oh, yeah. You want to do a wedding?
Gotcha.
We can work it out.
And so
can I marry myself back there?
Yes, you can.
Awesome.
For a flat fee of $500.
So the strip says to me when I show up, right? He goes, now... Had a wedding back in the backyard. Oh, all right. He's like, I'm already a little bit tipsy.
That's right. It's never
he goes,
a good way to start the show.
So I'm liable to mute you. I'm like, mm-hmm. He goes, often.
Often, yeah.
He goes, so don't get miffed at me now. I said, all right, you can mute me as much as you want. Just play the bumps I spent so much time working on.
Mm-hmm.
And in my defense, I did not have enough time.
It's okay. I'm not going to fault you for anything.
To set those
That's
bumps
fine.
up yet, but we will see what will happen in the next fucking.
There's the F-bomb, and we're only 2 minutes into the show. Nice job, buddy.
We'll see what happens at the next break, is what you were going to say.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, so then I was just going to point out. So what does he do? Starts us right off with that damn white stripe stuff, man.
That's right.
But that's okay. All right. So anyway, well, listen, it has been very difficult for me to prepare for tonight's show. My computer, I got home from the show last Sunday, and my computer literally began. It got just the nastiest virus I've ever seen. I had two, including Strip and another tech, work on it. I finally, actually, believe it or not, I fixed it myself.
Did you?
Actually, hold on.
What?
I worked on it remotely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I told him if I was going to fix it, I'd have to see it in person.
Right.
Can I ask a question?
Can we say that first? Yeah.
Before we go too far, the virus Strip, mute him really quick. Mute him. The virus, was this related in any way to his download history of porn?
Yes.
Was it? Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah,
All right.
totally.
All right, so
yeah.
go back to the story.
It's
then.
funny because that's exactly what I was going to say. He needs to stop looking at porn so much.
Well, anytime you get a virus, it's because you're looking at porn.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
As Dr. Gregory House said, porn, it doesn't download itself.
He doesn't know it because he was away from his computer, but I looked up his history, and there's just like tons of porn sites. That
Russian
popped up.
porn, Bulgarian porn, Peruvian porn,
Yeah.
Belfair porn, which involves...
Does he know nobody can hear him right now?
Yeah, he's still muted. Yeah. Oh, you can unmute him now. Let him go with the story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Strip.
Get your digs in now, Kevin, because you know what's coming in the 8 o'clock hour.
Can we tag that really quick? Are they coming to be here at 8 o'clock? Is that when they're coming?
I hope so.
Is that when we're bringing the man troop?
They got off the ferry at about 6:30, quarter to 7.
Where'd they go to? They went to Seattle?
They went to Seattle.
Nice.
So listen, if you're a fan, you listen to the show. Many times in the past, we've had our good friend from Jacksonville, Florida, Mike Peroni on. Well, Mike got married this weekend.
Poor guy.
And actually last weekend.
Yeah.
And he and his new bride have flown up here, and they are going on a cruise for their honeymoon. Leaves out of Seattle. I guess when you're from Florida, going to Alaska would be a really nice cruise. It's a complete change of something totally different.
Yeah.
So I totally get that, and it's a
You ever been
beautiful
to
cruise.
Alaska?
I have, and it's just gorgeous.
Just
I love
amazing.
it.
Yeah.
And it's not 85 degrees in the water and 100 degrees in the shade, but it doesn't matter. Listen, it's still beautiful.
Just seeing the sights,
It
was
is
amazing.
It is. And for those of you that have never been to Alaska, I'm sorry you've never had clean air. But what?
Clean water.
Yeah. You think I'm joking? I'm serious.
And it's a difference between. I always thought Seattle was pretty clean.
Yeah.
In going to Southern California and going to when I was stationed in the Midwest and even in Indiana. Seattle is a cleaner air environment than it is in the Midwest,
right?
Because of all the coal factories and stuff out there, and boy, you get to Alaska, man, you walk off that plane,
and you're like, it
is like, holy cow! I mean, you can just tell.
You're like, look at your inhaler.
I walked off the airplane in Anchorage on a tarmac. Okay, I've never done that before.
Yeah.
I've never landed at what I would consider a major metropolitan airport, which I would still think Anchorage is, even though it is in the middle of nowhere. And I walked off the airplane at 11:30 at night, mind you, daylight. Okay. On a tarmac.
pretty. It's different, but it's cool. It's just because because it's so different.
Well, but it was 11:30 at night, and it's broad daylight because it was in July. But, sorry, go ahead with your story.
So anyway, all I was going to say was is there going to be Mike Perrone from Jacksonville will be here in studio this evening.
Yes.
I believe the Loesch is going to be with him.
Loesch told me he was coming down.
Yep.
Yeah, and we'll also have my buddy Lee that I work with.
Now Lee called the show 2 weeks ago, and we invited him to come in. Lee is passionate about these issues on the IRS, so we are going to talk about those in the 8 o'clock hour.
There's a new issue with the IRS that popped up this week. Did you hear
Actually,
about that?
there's two. There was breaking news today, which
about
you probably
overspending.
No, there's more.
Did you hear about the overspending one though?
I did. I love the what was it? $50 million for. Well, we're going to talk about it though. We're going to talk about it in the 8 o'clock hour. So I'm not going to get into it now.
Let me preface now because I have some really strong opinions on this, and my opinions are my own and do not reflect the agency that I'm going to blast in a little bit. But go ahead.
Well, and again, there's breaking news just today on it, and again we are going to talk about this. An agency employee has linked the White House to the IRS, and
an agency employee has.
That is correct, and we are going to talk about that again in the 8 o'clock hour. Perrone's take on this will be very interesting. He, after we visited with you last night for a little while, he and I left and we went and we had some coffee with some friends, and he drilled me and did not stop on this IRS issue. He is overly passionate about it, and is dumbfounded by some people's reaction to it. I am not as dumbfounded. I am not as
their support for or their excuses.
Well, I'm going to let him speak. I'm going to let him speak for himself.
Well, let's say that for the 8 o'clock hour
That's
because
right.
Lee will be here, and I know that Lee and I have been supportive of the agency in some respects.
And I would expect you to.
Well, we're employees.
That's right.
And I think that
that is a fine line that has to be walked. That's the reality.
I think it's that, but I also think it's because as employees, we are on the inside a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So because of the inside, it gives us a unique perspective that in some ways I think taints our view, but it also I also think it allows us to see things from a different perspective.
It gives you a somewhat more realistic perspective on some things.
Yeah.
But here's what I will say. I give you this as my word when we talk about this stuff in the 8 o'clock hour. I will not ask you anything directly with you or Lee anything in direct reference to your positions or your jobs or anything like that. So I need to make sure that you rest assured. And I'm not going to say, well, do you do this or do you? We're not going to do anything like that. So don't call and don't chat, don't type stuff into the chat room asking directly. They are not in a position to do that. They are not spokespeople. They are not paid to speak on behalf of. They are simply employees of and are giving their opinions, not as employees of, but as individual American citizens.
I will say this: you can ask whatever you want to. I will always say I'm not going to answer that.
Well, then you'd be like your boss.
No, shut your mouth. No, but I will say I'm not going to answer that. I will say I'm not going to answer that, and there's a couple reasons why I want to answer. One, the unit involved is not the unit that I work in. I don't know the policies. I don't know the process. They have what's called an IRM, which is an Internal Revenue Manual, which is basically the rule book that the IRS has to work by. I don't know the IRM guidelines, the rule book guidelines, the policies for those units, so I won't comment on those. Anything else I say will be my personal opinion. I've been very supportive of the agency. I'll continue to be so, although the information that came out about some of the spending in regards to some of these conferences, I have some pretty strong feelings that might infuriate some people I work with, including my boss. But I'll say it only because it's my opinion. I'm allowed to have them.
By the way, did you see? So now let's get to some stuff that's a little bit more fun and entertaining. Did you see any of the box office numbers coming out this week? The big summer blockbuster hit that came out this week.
I didn't. Before you tell that, can I give my excuse why I'm not really prepared as much as I'd like to be for the show?
Okay.
Do you know what opens a week from yesterday?
What opens a week?
The 2013 Kitsap Blue Jackets season will open on the 8th, which is a week from yesterday, next Saturday night at the Kitsap County Fairgrounds. And as always, as every year, yours truly will be has already been working to get the pocket schedules out and the some of the game day materials together, working on the PA script, and I'll be doing some of the PA work with the team again this year, and so that's been occupying my time. So Coach Ryan Parker, who's the head baseball coach at OC, will be coaching the team again this year, and they open up the schedule this coming Saturday night. And they open up, by the way, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but they've added 2 new teams to the league. And,
really? Well, that's good to hear.
One of those new teams is actually one of the teams we're opening up against on Saturday night. I just completely brain farted on. It's not. I don't think we're playing Victoria. No, yeah, we're playing Medford.
Oh, Medford, Oregon. Okay.
We're playing the Medford, Oregon squad who comes into town. So their first. I don't know if it's their first games, but it's their first trip to Kitsap. So it'll be interesting to have them come in. You know, when you play a squad that's kicking off their inaugural season, by history in this league, they should suffer pretty poorly for it. You know, as they get established their first couple of years. So it should be a good homestand for the team. And so they open up on June 8th with a 6:35 start, 6:35 on Sunday, and then a really weird 11 a.m. start on Monday the 10th. So if you haven't picked up your tickets yet, feel free to do so. The beer garden will be open. The weather report for next weekend looks outstanding with highs in the mid to upper 70s. They're calling for clear skies, perfect baseball weather. Sit out in the beer garden with Paul. Enjoy yourself a nice, tall, cool one, and enjoy some baseball. Blue Jackets look stacked this year. And one thing they did that I just want to give the team credit for, you know, they don't normally do promotions on Friday and Saturday games because Friday and Saturdays you draw really well anyway. You don't need to do promotions from a business perspective because that ballpark only holds 1,200 people on a good day. That's the capacity. So to promote and bring in more people than that would be stupid because you have to turn them away. Well, the team decided opening night, which you shouldn't have to promote for anyway because it's opening night, they're going to do it as a military appreciation night anyway. So even though they never do this on a weekend night or opening night, they're still going to give discounted tickets to the military members. They're still going to they want to honor those serving on the Stennis specifically, but all military members. The command master chief in the Stennis will be one of the people out throwing at the first pitch. KPS Health Plans is the title sponsor for the opening night game, but it'll be a good time. So we invite everybody to come down and enjoy some baseball, wood bat baseball, which I rather like instead of the metal bat crap. So I just want to get that plug in. So
No, that's good.
So now you were asking if I had seen the stories about
the movie, the
box office numbers.
Box office
I
movies?
had not.
The immense flop that is Will Smith's new movie.
You know, I peruse Twitter feeds and the Twitter noise about that movie. What's it called? After Earth?
Something like that.
Something like that has been horrible.
Yeah.
One of the Twitter feed, Dane Cook, or maybe it wasn't Dane Cook, but somebody on the Twitter feeds that I read said something about if you have anything to do this weekend, do everything except to go see that movie. It's been panned pretty bad. I'm kind of shocked. Will Smith doesn't normally pick up crappy movie roles, but this is getting hosed. It sounds like it's as bad as Waterworld was for Kevin Costner.
Yeah. So anyway, I just found it funny because it's a big flop and it's it's his big thing. Now moving on to the next topic.
Him and his son are in that together.
Yeah.
By the way, Jaden's in there.
Next one. Did you see the post that we put on Outlaw Radio Network on our Facebook page about who could be your next Republican senator from the state of Tennessee?
No.
Really?
I didn't see that. Who is it?
You did not see this. I am shocked.
I haven't checked. When was it put on the page? Because if it was put on yesterday or today, I've been at the. And Squaw Valley Fireworks, by the way, it's open. So come get your fireworks because we're open.
Now here's the
Callow
kicker.
Avenue, in between 13th and 15th, down the street from St. Vinny's. Go ahead in Bremerton.
Any more?
We have firecrackers and bottle rockets. We love you, city of Bremerton. Go ahead.
He's a wrestler, WWE professional wrestler.
Lawler.
Wrong.
Not Jerry Lawler? No. I heard Jerry Lawler had made some noise about running before, too, but not
he may
Lawler.
or may not have. I don't know. This is not who this article is about.
Who is this?
Don't look at my screen, and I'll give you his real name.
Oh, give me a real name. Okay, give me a real name. We'll see if I can
His
tell
real
who this
name is Glenn Jacobs.
Glenn Jacobs does not help me at all.
He normally wears a mask.
He normally wears a mask, and he's from Tennessee?
Mm-hmm. Come on, brother. You can get this.
There's not very many people that wear masks, so... okay. Hold on. I do know this. It's Kane.
That's correct.
It's Kane. I actually did read something about that.
Yep. I read, first of all, can I just say this? If you're a Democrat on the floor and Representative Glenn Jacobs from the great state of Tennessee stands up and says, "You will not vote that way," do you then stand up and say, "My good friend from Tennessee is wrong"? How do you deal with a 6'9",
320-pound
giant?
Can I ask a question though about this? Let me ask a question because if you're not a fan of wrestling, and I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about wrestling, but let's talk about his storylines as a guy, as who Kane has been in his storylines. Because again, not about wrestling, but about whether or not you think this will impact his ability to get elected. Because his character has been a kidnapper, a borderline whack job guy. He murdered somebody. He's risen from the dead. Now, if he was a Democrat, I would think that wouldn't play as much of as an impact. The Democrats don't tend to vote as moralistically as the Republicans do.
But
as a conservative, would you think that as a guy who is from hell, that's what his moniker is. He's from hell. He's inherently, you know what I mean? I mean, do you think that will play a role in how people vote for him?
I think that's a great question, and the answer is simply put, none whatsoever.
Linda McMahon ran as a Republican out of Connecticut, and there were Republicans voicing their concern about the storyline and the content of WWE when she was the chief executive officer.
Yeah, it's bunk. It's simply put, it ain't gonna affect nothing.
You don't think that'll have a say in it?
No,
at
people
all?
are either gonna vote for him or not vote for him based on his policies. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a fair question. I don't think it should, because he's an actor, just like he's an actor. Out, Wyatt, buddy. Goodbye, Wyatt. Go put some clothes on.
Hey, Dent, what is wrong with you? Close the door.
They had a wedding here today. Now there's children trying to come in the studio. Actually, bring the kids back in here.
No.
They might know more about politics than Paul does. But I'm not saying it should have an impact on how he runs. I just wonder with how much mud gets tossed.
It just simply shows the difference in thinking between a left-leaning individual such as yourself and somebody like me. You think that a storyline for a make-believe, fictitious form of entertainment would have an effect on whether or not people vote for an individual. Well, then you're shallow.
No, I don't think it should, but I think some people will let it.
Who will let it?
Ultra-conservatives?
Uninformed voters may let it.
Uninformed. How many informed voters do you think there are? If you take the state of Tennessee.
How many voted for Obama?
Hold on. Take the state of Tennessee.
How's that Hopi changey stuff working for you?
Take the state of Tennessee. Yeah, use your catchy little catchphrases all you want to. It makes you feel good. That's fine. Oh, I'm Sarah Palin, Hopi changey, blah, blah, blah. You can't put lipstick on a pig.
Keep going.
But listen, take the state of Tennessee.
Tennessee, where the family trees have no branches.
Give me a percentage. What percentage of people in Tennessee do you think would fall under the informed voter?
Here's why I got to tell. I'm about to explain this to you.
Answer the question. What do you think is actually an informed voter in Tennessee?
Few.
So what? 10%?
Maybe on a good day.
15%?
No.
10%.
Yeah,
so that means the other 90% are going to be swayed by things that don't really matter, like the guy who used to be a professional wrestler who kidnapped and drugged people.
Can you shut up for 5 seconds?
But I'm just illustrating the point.
You don't get to make your point by talking over people, okay?
Sure I do. I'm a Democrat.
The point is that the entire time I was in the Army, the only person I ever met from Tennessee managed to somehow point the claymore towards us, all right? The goddamn thing says point towards enemy. And
does it really say that on it?
Yes, it does.
It says point
in
towards
bold
enemy?
letters, as a matter of fact. So, again, I don't have a lot of faith in the people from Tennessee. And let's not forget they did produce Alger. So, I'm just saying.
Well, listen.
The once future king of the United States of America.
But see, here's the difference between you and I.
The guy who invented the internet.
Here's the difference between you and I. And I'm not going to come out with one of these, there's a difference between a Republican and a liberal, because I don't know.
Why not? Because there are stark differences. You do better to recognize them.
There are. But I believe this is the difference between you and I. You look at things through these myopic glasses of the way things should be in some perfect world. If everybody thought like you did, and everybody was informed like you are, and everybody had the same belief structure that you did, and this is how things would be, and this is how perfect it would be, and there'd be rainbows and unicorns, and women would still not have shoes and be in the kitchen.
If you're going to accurately represent me, at least accurately represent me.
I'm trying.
Don't make stuff up. All right.
I understand that in the ideal world, you're right. Uninformed voters would not let stupid storylines from a guy who used to be a professional wrestler influence their views. But as we just established, even in states like Washington or New York or Texas, where I believe that they're probably a little more educated than maybe in Tennessee. Sorry, people in Tennessee, if you feel like I'm knocking you, I am. But the rate of informed voters is low, and most people vote by their gut or their feelings of how the person makes them feel.
I got free food.
I mean, look, I don't like Sarah Palin, but the people who voted for Sarah Palin A good chunk of them voted for her not because they were informed, but because of how she made them.
Who voted for Sarah Palin? When did they vote for Sarah Palin?
When she was a vice presidential candidate.
Well, they were voting for John McCain. They weren't voting for her.
Hold on. Let me finish this. Let me finish the point. People who voted for Sarah Palin, and there were a large people of Republicans and conservatives who voted for the ticket because they liked what Sarah Palin brought to the ticket. Okay, and a lot of people did that not because she was qualified, but because of what she brought to the ticket and how she made them feel, the warm fuzzy. They voted for her. And a lot of people didn't vote against the ticket or didn't vote for the ticket, not because she was or wasn't qualified, but because she didn't give them a warm fuzzy feeling. That we see that on both sides of the aisle. They people vote based on the gut instinct they have and whether or not somebody gives them a warm fuzzy. Obama gave a lot of people warm fuzzies. And so a lot of uneducated voters voted for Obama. Not because he had good ideas or brought good things to the table, but because he gave them a warm fuzzy. It was the same thing with Bush, the same thing with Clinton, the same thing with Reagan. I mean, it's the way it's been. But these storylines, they will come into play. That's why Michelle Bachmann didn't get the Republican nomination.
No, Michelle Bachmann didn't get the nomination because she sucked as a candidate. There's just a difference.
You think so? I don't know. I like Michelle Bachmann. If you're a conservative, I think that she would have carried herself. She would have carried the conservative mantra very well. Michelle Bachmann would have. Rick Perry would have too. If you're a conservative, I think they would have been good flag bearers for your cause.
Hey, when we come back, we're going to talk about some breaking news. Michael Douglas blames his throat cancer on oral sex. This should be good.
You want to go to the fourth hour stuff early, don't you?
No. I'm just I'm getting some of the lesser known topics out of the way,
so we can save up for the IRS talk on the 8 o'clock hour.
There we go.
All right, stick around. Outlaw Radio Network. St. Paul, the voice of reason.
K-Dog, the loose cannon.
We're back after this on
Outlaw Radio Network
on Edge Media Source.
Oh yeah, that one.
Stay tuned.
The Outlaw Radio Network.
Hey, sports fans, have you ever wished there was a live and local all-sports broadcasting network, but wish no more? It's ISBNsports.com, Kitsap's only live and local all-sports, 24-hour broadcasting network, featuring the Kitsap Blue Jackets, Olympic College Rangers, high school athletics, and the ISBN Sports Show every Saturday morning from 10 to noon with interviews from exclusive guests from around the Sound. So, you want sports? Go to ISBNsports.com.
Heather Madden, former machinist, wins success as a skilled professional rock star.
No more working dusty old machine shops for me. Being the boss of my own professional rock band has improved my life in every way, and I owe it all to the cool gear at Kitsap Music.
What do you want? Substantial spare time? Groupies? Leather pants? Use only certified cool products from Kitsap Music.
The Home Buyers Association of Kitsap County is an association of professional builders, subcontractors, service providers, and purveyors representing the home building industry. For more than 50 years, the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County has provided information, education, and services that promote the health and welfare of the home building industry. As leaders of the industry, the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County fosters safe, affordable housing and addresses issues affecting our industry. To find out more, visit them online at kitsap.hba.com.
The Kitsap Humane Society is an independent nonprofit committed to providing positive, life-changing solutions to people and companion animals. Our vision is that every adoptable animal has a home. In 2010, we rehomed 4,111 pets. For more information on our programs, services, and animals available for adoption, visit us on the web at kitsap-humane.org. Kitsap Humane Society. Rescue, rehabilitate, rehome.
Brothers Power Sports has been a locally owned family business in Bremerton since 1949. From new and pre-owned motorcycles, ATVs, scooters, boats, and watercraft, to parts and service and apparel. Brothers Power Sports is committed to being your source for all your motorsports needs, and they're a proud sponsor of the Habitat for Humanity of Kitsap County. Brothers Power Sports, 5205 1st Street in Bremerton, and online at brotherspowersports.com. Stop in and feel the difference at Brothers Power Sports in Bremerton.
As Kitsap County's largest maintenance provider, Team Innovative in Paulsbo provides commercial and residential maintenance to hundreds of millions of dollars of local real estate. With services including parking lot maintenance and street cleaning to landscape and design, Team Innovative is committed to using a green approach and following a strong environmental conscience. Team Innovative Services, 697-6858, or visit them online at getinnovative.net. Team Innovative Services. Get serious. Get innovative.
Love this bump. This bump is awesome.
Gets past the point of not being funny.
Oh, it's great, man. No, it's great. Every time I see the look on your face, look when he hits the bump. For those of you at home that are watching the show, look in the camera right now. Whatever you're doing, stop when you look in the camera because I want to give you an idea of what it looks like. Because the camera's not usually hot when Strip starts the bump, right?
Right after there's a slight transition period.
Okay, so for those of you that miss it, let me show you. This is what it looks like. I'll take out my hat for this and everything. So this is what it looks like.
Put it back on. You're
this is what it looks like when Paul hears the bump. When the bump starts, and Paul's sitting here, this is what it looks like. The bump will start, and he'll be like, he'll stare off into space with this look on his face, like I want to choke the life out of somebody. So
preferably me, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, probably. That's what I'm thinking too. So it's the Outlaw Radio Network.
All right, on EdgeMediaSource.com, K-Dog Loose Cannon, St. Paul, the voice of reason. We're going to get to we're into our in-studio guest here in a little bit.
Yeah, Leroy Jenkins is in the studio. Is that what we're going to use for your radio name tonight? You want to call yourself Leroy Jenkins?
You play a lot of World of Warcraft, do you?
You
All right.
can pick up a mic if you want.
Michael Douglas blames his throat cancer on oral sex. Now,
That's
I have
ridiculous.
not read this article. I simply read the headline. I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
That's your source.
But I'm like, I got to read this. I don't know what this says, but any man who publishes an article about a world-famous actor blaming his cancer on oral sex, this has just got to be good. I don't know how this is going to go. So
Yeah.
if this is really stupid and lame, I apologize ahead of time. It says, so behind the candelabra, actor Michael Douglas says he knows how he contracted a potentially fatal form of throat cancer several years ago. Can you catch cancer? I didn't think that was possible. Nobody
Sure,
said
it involves you, another guy, and his...
You should probably mute yourself there for one of them.
It's totally possible.
Was
Asked
that a
whether
Michael Jackson? Was that what that was?
shut up for a minute, right?
Go ahead.
Asked whether he now regretted his years of smoking and drinking, usually thought to be the cause of the disease, Douglas replied, no, because without wanting to get too specific, this particular cancer is caused by HPV, which actually comes from cunnilingus.
The human papillomavirus.
The actor also says oral sex can help cure the condition once contracted. Of course, that's a theory one doctor contacted by The Guardian called into question. But Mahesh Kumar, a consultant who's a head and neck surgeon in London, expressed skepticism that Douglas's cancer was caused solely by HPV and surprise at Douglas's assertion that cunnilingus could also help cure the condition. Maybe he thinks that more exposure to the virus will boost his immune system, but medically that just doesn't make sense. Douglas is currently cancer-free and has several film projects in the works. Now, before you say anything, I just want to point out.
Go ahead. I know what I'm going to say, but go ahead.
This is exactly why when actors and actresses say anything at all about politics, and I mean anything.
Even if they agree with you?
Even if does that happen often? I don't care what they say. Anytime an actor or an actress says anything, this is a great example of why don't listen. They believe oral sex causes cancer and cures it. All right, go ahead, Kevin.
Nice. All right, outstanding. Hey, listen, I want to read this story, and I'm not being crappy when I read this, but
it's a sad story. I actually watched these guys and their storm cam.
Yeah, I'm going to read this. Have you seen the footage? I'm not. I don't.
And we're about to get to people like going, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
I watched what I believe to probably be next to 9/11 and the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan, the most compelling couple hours of TV I've ever seen here a couple days ago when that massive storm front moved into Oklahoma City.
Right.
And all three of the major news networks were carrying live commentary and video footage from actual storm chasers that were in the field. And I'm not gonna bust out on what your story is that you're about to talk about here in a second, but I will tell you that it was so riveting, and I could not. I literally DVR'd a couple hours of the coverage.
Did you really?
It was so compelling, and I watched it again because And I still go back and I look at that storm. I look at those cells and the way. I can't believe that so far. I mean, there's only 20 people accounted for that are dead right now. It blows my mind that so few casualties occurred. I mean, the University of Washington women's softball team was there, dude.
Yeah.
And 70,000 other women for the College World Series in softball. I mean, there are a lot of people that don't live there.
Can I ask a question before you get to my story? How are the girls doing? I know that they won their opening game against
they were
Nebraska.
playing. They were playing this afternoon when I left to go play ball, so I don't know how they did. It was 0-0 in the third when I left. So
let me read this really quick. A group of men who devoted their lives to hunting powerful storms died in the middle of the chase. Tim Samaras, his son Paul Samaras, and Carl Young were killed Friday while following a tornado in El Reno, Oklahoma, relatives told CNN on Sunday. By the way, this is from CNN.com. Surprise. Their work tracking tornadoes was featured in the former Discovery Channel show Storm Chasers. They were among at least 9 people that state officials reported killed in storms that struck Oklahoma on Friday night, and then the story goes on from there. Let me just say this, and I'm not meaning to make light of this. I'm not meaning to be insensitive to this. What benefit is there to them tracking chasing the storm?
Okay, do you want me to answer that? Because I'm not faulting you when you say this. I understand it's a perfectly good question. I would have asked the same question until I watched that coverage live.
Okay.
Those storm trackers run with a new kind of radar in their vehicles. They are literally 100, 200, 300 yards from these tornadoes that are a mile to up to 2 miles wide.
Sure.
And they are following it, giving exact time, place to the second. I mean, as you're watching this unfold, these guys were actually saying, all right, it's on 29th Street. The tornado right now is literally moving south towards 30th Street. They're literally giving second to second timing on where the tornado's at, where it's hitting, and everything.
Is there
an
advantage to that over Doppler, over other radar?
Yes, because Doppler radar at a distance, all these radar men. See, these first of all, these several of these tornadoes had what they called a rain shield around them.
Yeah,
and they were multi-vortex tornadoes, which means you don't have just one tornado. You have little tornadoes on the outside and more tornadoes on the inside of this one big monster tornado. And so what their degree of technology allows them to do with their GoPro video cameras,
right?
It allows them to feed directly to the major news networks, which is exactly what they were doing, and it's exactly what these guys that were storm chasing for the Weather Channel were doing. In fact, one of the other storm chasers caught on video their vehicle being picked up and thrown, and it's gripping, it's riveting, because you know that you're watching 3 men die that are trying. And then these guys, I personally, again, I don't have anything to back this up. This is my own opinion. Having watched the coverage, the second-to-second coverage and the constant updates that were going on, I believe personally that a lot of lives were saved because these guys were on the ground literally giving the minute-by-minute, play-by-play of these tornadoes where they were. Because remember, you got to remember, there was these weathermen that are in Oklahoma City. They've got their single Doppler radar. They've got their single pole. These guys are running dual poles. They know, like I said, these guys are driving their cars within 100 meters of these things. And these weathermen are saying, listen, we know that there's a tornado somewhere out there, but we can't verify it until the National Weather Service says that it's there. Hey, this is Bob the Storm Chaser. Yeah, I'm on 29th Street. The goddamn thing's a half mile wide. It's here.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's
so they're able to get they're able to get visual on it,
and close, and it was dark.
Of what they've got on their the type of they have in their truck,
and they're closer, so they're literally able to see it. And they're able to see the vortex right on their radar screen. It's not good as far away. You have to be relatively close to be able to make this work. So it's the difference in, do you want eyes on the ground? I mean, these guys are the scouts now, is what it amounts to for news networks with regards to these weather events. And it's just, I mean, it was gut-wrenching. You were trying not to cry as you're watching houses get just demolished. Most of the people that were killed now, the information that's been coming out, died as a result of the flash flooding. Really? Not the tornadoes. So I have to look at this and say, we know that that if you were watching the coverage, there were at least 5 tornadoes on the ground, and only 20 deaths, and of those, only 7 are related to tornadoes. And you compare that to what happened in Moore, where there were no storm chasers on the ground, right. and you had the schools get hit, and people just didn't know that it was coming, and that was during the day. This was at night, and these storm chase. I mean, so it was just. honestly, it was just, my heart goes out to them with just brave souls. It was just incredible.
I tend to question, and I said this on the air before. We talked about New Orleans, and I tend to question why I would never live in a place like Oklahoma. And I have nephews in Oklahoma. I was raised
You
with
never
them.
lived there. Why?
I say that knowing that I have loved ones there. I was raised with my nephews.
Just answer the question.
Hold on, I'm quantifying this. It's easy to say, well, he doesn't have any vested interest down there, but I do, because I was raised with my nephews. They were like my brothers growing up, so they live in Oklahoma City now, or they live in Choctaw, right outside.
Just
of
because
Oklahoma
they live there doesn't mean you would.
No, but what I'm saying is I have vested interest in what, but I could never live there. I could never live in New Orleans. I could never live on the Florida coast, because those places are in line for not just a disaster, which is what we deal with up here in the Northwest, where there's the risk of the earthquake at any time, but they deal with the risk of repetitive disaster. As we just saw in Oklahoma City, not only did they just get butt kicked by a tornado a week ago, but now that exact same area got butt kicked by a tornado now, and they could get butt kicked by another tornado in a month, and then next year they go right back to the whole same thing again. I question why.
Well, first of all, from what I understand, when you listen to several of the analysts talking about the massive damage and the death and destruction and injuries in Moore, Oklahoma, which is the small town outside of Oklahoma City, the suburb that got hit last week.
Right.
That entire region, that area, hadn't been hit. There'd been a drought. They hadn't been hit by a major tornado in over 50 years.
Oh, really?
And so you have an entire new generation of people that are growing up there, living there, building there, have never had to experience the severe weather. And they were literally, most of the homes that were being built there now were not being built with storm shelters, whereas the older homes all had storm shelters. So a lot of these people were having to make their way into their bathroom or a middle room in the middle of their house and basically put, pillows and mattresses around themselves. And because they literally, the newer houses, no storm shelters. So,
and one of the articles on CNN is that basements are very scarce in Oklahoma.
Scarce.
Well, why is that? Because it feels like every single house in Washington has a freaking basement, where I don't really feel like we even need them. You know what I mean? Like in Washington, I think a basement is like just extra space. You would think in tornado country, if you're going to build a home in Oklahoma, you would think you would intentionally build a basement.
Do you want me to answer the
Please
question
do,
for you?
yeah.
Because here we have this little thing called hills, and our topography is much different here. So, for
So the
example,
topography makes sense here because
it does
basements make
because
sense
because there you don't have to pull when you go to build a house there and it's flat, you don't have to pull in or bring in a D5 cat or a backhoe and dig a hole so that you can build a level foundation for you to build a house on, which gives you a house that sits on an angle so that it goes like this, and so you've got that natural dead space. So it's that dead space they take and build into a basement. Out there, you don't need to do it. You build your footing. You build your 2-foot wall on top of it. You build your house right on top of that. So at the most, all you've got is a crawl space. Here, it's not like that at all. Here, almost every single house that I do, that I go out and build, has at least
like a daylight basement type of
at least a
scenario.
4-foot crawl space underneath it. And a lot of people say, well, if I'm going to have a 4-foot crawl space, I might as well have a 6-foot extra room for storage.
Exactly.
So and that's what it amounts to.
Would it make sense to you if you're the federal government or if you're the state of Oklahoma? Would it make sense to you because God knows they legislate everything else? Would it make sense for the state of Oklahoma to say, for example, okay, for all new homes moving forward, we want a basement?
Well, you're talking about affecting code, and
but would that be fair given what they're dealing with?
No, what it would do is it would jack up the price of a house.
Yeah, no, I understand that. That's what I'm at, but that's why I'm asking, because you know that some liberals, some,
and then
because conservatives tend to be against any form of regulation.
Well, how do you regulate that with mobile homes?
I'm saying new home building. So you obviously aren't going to get that with
stick
mobile
builds.
homes. I'm talking stick builds. Yeah.
I get it. Listen, it's one of those things where you go, gee, I'd really like to do this, but again, that is a huge added expense to a home buyer or a home builder,
right?
And it's just I don't think the market could support it. If it could support it, it probably already would. Houses out there are much cheaper than they are here, to say the least. So
yeah,
and that's not because they're built cheaper.
And the economy out there is hosed too. I mean, so that's part of the reason too, right? I
don't know that the economy in Texas is the best in the country. To the point where Rick Perry's traveling all over the country touting Texas. If you don't like hearing, hey, Boeing, come to Texas. I mean, it's the truth.
Can I be honest?
Sure.
If I'm Boeing, I'd be entertaining that idea.
Boeing apparently is moving a lot of their operations to non-union states right now. They've made it clear that that's what they're going to do.
And that's why they went to South Carolina.
The National Labor Relations Board, they said, screw you, you're not going to stop us. We're going to do it. Piss off. So, and you know what? I don't fault them for it. It's not your fault or my fault that the business environment in the state of Washington has been made horrible for big business, but it is. It is.
Yeah,
and I know you hate it when I say this, but it's the Democrats that made it bad. So
okay, hold on.
No, you can't argue the fact that democratic policies by elected Democrats is what made the business environment in the state of Washington horrible.
Putting the blame in the wrong place, though.
Oh, it belongs on conservatives then?
No.
Okay, where does it belong?
It belongs on the people who vote in this state. Listen.
Yeah, that's a hell of a deflection, but okay.
No, it's not a deflection at all. Listen, if you want to hold people
the people that vote in
the
this state aren't the ones who make the laws. They're not the ones that make the regulations.
But that is such a cop-out.
They're not the Kathy Haigs of this world.
That's a cop-out.
They're not the governors who do a secret vote in the middle of the night and do it as a closed vote, so nobody can know how the representatives voted.
But we continue to elect the people.
I don't
into
disagree
office.
with you on that.
We continue to elect the people into office that pass the same namby-pamby laws or don't take things into account when they do this stuff. And then we elect them back in there. Listen, Kathy Hagen, Larry Sequist, and I like Larry Sequist.
Larry Sequist he's a Reagan. He's a conservative Democrat. I understand that line of thinking. I totally get it.
These are two of the dimwits that went in there in the middle of the night and voted to overturn the two.
No, Larry Sequist voted against it.
Did he vote against it?
Yeah, he voted against it. So
these are two of the type of people that were the idiots that went in there.
Nothing like stereotyping, Kevin.
Well, I'm stereotyping. But these are two of the people that serve in the. Let's do this. Two of the people that serve in the body that went in on a midnight meeting and voted to overturn the 2/3 majority for the tax increases that voters in the state of Washington approved. Okay,
sure.
Now, what do we do? Kathy Haig. Who was the other girl that was in that? Kathy Haig, and who was the other one? The one that we
Christine
saw.
Rolfes,
the one that we saw at the Habitat for Humanity event that we interviewed.
Can I point out, by the way,
and she was pissed to see us there.
Oh, she was. Can I just point out?
It's nice that little old Outlaw Radio Network has got Kathleen Rothfuss Christine Rothfuss so pissed off and under her skin. Little old Outlaw Radio's pissing off Christine Rothfuss. We're so sorry. Call Josh Brown. You guys can have a fucking support group.
Hey.
Strip already swore once.
No, you can't say support group.
Go ahead.
What I was going to say was, and now you correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like most of the Democrats that we have actually interviewed, politicians, have been complete douchebags. Whereas most of the conservatives have been, both of them, have been fairly pleasant.
No, hold on.
What? Listen, it was a Democrat that came on air and called Belfair a third world country.
I get that. I do get that. But remember, you're forgetting about Republicans like Olson, who came on here and just sounded like a ranting panda. I mean,
Well,
And for every Democrat, every Democrat like Christine Rothfuss, we had Larry Sequist who came on here.
Larry Sequist was a gem. That dude was great. I would vote for him every day of the week and twice on Sundays.
Listen,
and he's a Democrat.
But we can't. Okay.
By the way, I don't mean that Democrat in a disparaging sense.
Listen, this is like the little old lady who has 50,000 cats in her mobile home. Okay, and she continues to rant. And
Democrats
complain. No. Listen. Well, this argument about blaming our elected officials. And the little old lady does nothing but cry and complain and bitch and moan about the fact that the cost of cat food keeps going up. But she's got 50,000 cats in her mobile home. Rather than fix the problem and get rid of some of the cats, she just sits and complains about the cost of cat food. While we sit around and complain every day about the idiots and what they pass in Olympia, we don't clean house and get rid of the idiots. We keep re-electing the same idiots and expecting different results. That's like getting a divorce and marrying the same woman again. It doesn't make any sense. So if you want to blame Kathy Haig, or if you want to blame whoever the Republican is, Adam Smith, okay, because I want to be fair, okay? You want to blame the Republican or the Democrats that are in office that are doing the things that you don't approve of, but then you go right back and re-elect them, you are to blame. It's no different than repeating your same mistakes.
I got a free phone.
That's why I said, and I've said this a bunch of times. Yeah. You can't be mad at Obama for what's happened during his
tenure. Don't push it now.
Listen,
don't push it.
You can't be mad at Obama for what he's pushed through.
It's a free country, son. Listen, I can be mad at whoever I want.
Legislatively, you can't be mad at Obama for what he's pushed through. You're mad about Obamacare?
Wait, hold on. Are you going to use the argument because he's only doing what he said he was going to do?
Exactly.
Is that bull?
Legislatively, legislatively.
I can still be pissed at him for it.
Well, you can be mad at him for it, but
it's like hating the goddamn Yankees. They put a good team on the field. I can still hate them.
But you can't say that he was dishonest or disingenuous.
You've never heard me say that.
Not you. But some conservatives will blast him and say, "Oh my God, now he's doing all." But this is all stuff he said he was going to do.
I watched the Bible, by the way, on the History Channel. I know that Obama's the Antichrist. Okay, it was laid out there. It was really clear.
I'm just saying, we want honesty from our politicians, and then they do what they said they're going to do, and then we get pissed at them for doing what they said that they're going to do. Yeah. If you want to affect change.
Well, then don't get pissed at Bush. He said he was going into Iraq looking for WMD. So what if he didn't find it? He never said he was going to find him.
He said they found him.
He didn't say they found them.
He said they had proof that they were there.
That's different. He never said they found him.
He said they had proof and there wasn't any proof.
If a professional football player goes out and says, yeah, we're going into the Super Bowl and we're going to...
Why are you still defending Bush? I thought all of you Republicans had given up and thrown in the towel on defending Bush anymore.
Hey,
that Bush was on an island all by himself.
Listen, I'm 6 years into this freaking regime right now, and I'm telling you what, I'm missing him more and more every day. And his idiosyncrasies and his nucleoids and all that good stuff.
You went to Central.
So listen. Have you heard?
You went to Olympic High School, didn't you?
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me wrap this point.
I heard. Make this quick. We got breaking news.
I know. I'm just saying. If you want to affect change, you want to impact change.
Here we go with the change.
You have to start by cleaning house. You can change your president, but if you don't change the House and you don't change the Senate, then you're going to send the same dimwits back to office. Norm Dix went back every 2 years. For 35,
because
36
he pretended
years.
like he was never for re-election. Again, listen.
But the point is, you keep
conservatives
sitting in the back,
have
you're not ever going to do anything
It's
different.
called the Tea Party movement, and conservative. You cannot sit there and tell me
how many Tea Party people are in Congress or in the Senate.
I don't know. It's quite the Tea Party caucus is large enough. They've actually stalled a great many things. They've been blamed for being what's the word I'm looking for? Oh yeah, obstructionist. Listen, and I could pull it up and tell you how many members are in the Tea Party caucus in a minute, or I'll do it during the break so that I can give you that answer when we come back. But we've got some breaking news here, and I find this serious, but goddamn laugh out loud, shit your pants funny at the same time, and I mean this in the truest sense of the word. You Muslim pussies. All right, here's the phrase. Here's
you were talking about me, General.
Listen, I'm just
earlier.
you know what I'm gonna be real, right? Here's because honest, that's what I truly think that they are. Okay, I'm sorry, but if you're gonna claim your religion and grab a butcher's knife and a damn hatchet and stand outside a military base and wait for an unarmed man to walk out, and then you're gonna hack him to death in the middle of the street, okay, you're a pussy. That's all I'm gonna say. You want to make a stance? Walk up there and beat his ass with your bare hands by yourself.
Can we get rid of the phrase terrorism though? Because no. Can I tell you why?
Really?
Though? Really? Can I tell you why though?
What is it now? Police action against Al Qaeda?
No. Can I tell you why though?
Why?
What these guys did, and I'm not minimizing what they did. It was horrible. It was heinous. It was thuggery. But can we not elevate them? Can we not give them more credit? Because what they did is no different than the guy who's pissed off at his wife who's going to divorce him. So he waits till her and her coworker come out of work.
So you're comparing it to domestic violence.
But hold on. Do you understand my point though? What they did is no different than the guy who waits for his wife to get off work and he kills her in the parking lot.
I'm waiting for that defense.
It is thuggery. It is heinous. They deserve the electric
It's
chair.
evil. It's evil.
But it's not.
Say it. It's evil.
It's evil.
Okay.
But I have a hard time equating this as terrorism because now we've taken these two thugs and elevated them to the same level as the guys that killed 3,000 people on 9/11, and I don't think that those two asswits deserve that level of respect is the wrong word, but that level of elevation.
I'd like to say I understand where you're coming from, but you perplex me because, to be honest with you, nothing you said makes any sense.
I know. Go ahead.
What is elevating them or titling them with a certain word or anything else have to do with anything? You still have a British soldier that's dead, and you still have two guys that hacked him to death. I don't give a damn what you call it.
We'll discuss it more later.
Here's the headline news coming out today as we speak. Al Qaeda chief warns attacks on U.S. in quote everyone's reach. And what's your goddamn point? You've been saying the same freaking thing for 13 years. I'm really not all that scared. The day you light off a dirty nuke, for example, okay, then I'll take you seriously.
Did you see the story that I posted in our room on Facebook where we share stories? There was a very similar sort of this.
My computer hasn't worked for a week, brother,
I know.
so I'm sorry.
I want to read this to you because and Strip. We don't have time for this.
Yeah, we got 1 minute before we go to break.
Okay, I'm going to read this to you, and I'm going to pose a question. And let me pose the question before you start it.
All right, go ahead.
There's an Al Qaeda magazine.
Correct. Yes.
That is basically
it's a digital
encouraging-
magazine. It's online.
Yeah, Boston-style bombings. And this is the question I'm going to pose. You don't have to answer it. We'll talk about it later. And maybe when we get Peroni, we're going to get Lee on the segment, Leroy Jenkins on in the next segment. We're going to get Peroni and Lotion here. And I think this would be a good discussion for us to have maybe in the 9 o'clock hour. But they're basically calling for Boston-style bombing. So here's my question. They are basically rallying for attacks on Americans. So here's my question for everybody to think about. Would it be so wrong for us to take preemptive military strikes?
Against who?
Against the magazine. Against the editors of the magazine. Against where the building the magazine is being put out from. Find where their servers are at. Take it out. Send a SEAL team in there. Take the building out.
No,
take
you
out
don't
the
need
people
to.
that are writing for it.
You don't need to. All you need to do is have your cybersecurity experts launch a DNS attack against them.
Well,
denial of service.
And what I'm saying is,
oh, Jesus Christ! Let's just take a break because.
Hold on. So just
carried away.
I just want to put that out there because I do want to talk about it later. Because at some point you establish that they are rallying troops against us. They are basically making threats against us. We wouldn't allow other nations to do that. We would have to step up at some point. If Iran was rallying other nations to make attacks against us, we would strike first if we knew that it was an imminent threat. We know that these would be imminent threats. At what point do we say enough is enough? Al Jazeera needs to go. These electronic magazines that are trying to rally needs to go. Where do we draw the line? So that's just the question. Think about it. We'll talk about it later. We'll go to the top of the hour news. When we come back, we're going to bring Leroy Jenkins on. Now Lee is a very good friend of mine who actually works with me in the federal sector, working for the very beloved agency known as the Internal Revenue Service. I will say this, and I want Lee to give the same disclosure, that our thoughts and our opinions are just our own. We don't speak for the agency, the government, or anybody else. But we'll talk about the IRS after the break, since Peroni's too chicken crap to get in here. Stick around. Outlaw Radio Network. St. Paul, the voice of reason.
K-Dog Loose Cannon.
And Strip is running the boards and a little tipsy. Like, there's a shocker.
The Outlaw Radio Network.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Barbara Klein. Helicopters are flying over Angeles National Forest in Southern California, dropping water on a blaze that's growing rapidly and now covers nearly 40 square miles. David Richardson of the Los Angeles County Fire Department says wind is driving the fire.
What you're experiencing are a constant 20 to 25 mile an hour wind, what they're facing out of the line, with 40 to 50 mile an hour gusts. And that is creating havoc and a huge impact on our operations.
Meanwhile, fire crews in New Mexico are battling 2 wildfires in the Santa Fe National Forest, and thunderstorms are forecast. Central Europe is battling widespread flooding. At least 5 people have died. Several more are missing across the region, including Germany, France, Austria, Switzerland, and the Czech Republic. Bruce Kahnweiser is in Prague and reports conditions are expected to worsen.
A state of emergency has been declared across much of the country, and 300 soldiers have been deployed. The government held a series of emergency meetings throughout the day and has allocated $15 million in emergency aid. Rail transportation has been disrupted above ground and below. Switching problems have disrupted above-ground service across the country and also into Germany. Meanwhile, 8 metro stations in Prague have been closed to prevent flooding. For more than a week, intermittent heavy rains have besieged the region, sending rivers to dangerous levels. The Vltava River here in Prague is not expected to crest until sometime Monday evening or overnight into Tuesday. For NPR News, I'm Bruce Kahnweiser in Prague.
The UN says hundreds of wounded people are trapped inside the embattled Syrian town of Qusair. NPR's Kelly McEvers reports from Beirut the Syrian government has the town surrounded.
The UN Security Council had drafted a statement of alarm over the humanitarian crisis in Qusair, but Russia blocked the statement from being passed. The draft urged forces loyal to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad to do their utmost to avoid civilian casualties in Qusair and allow aid workers into the town. But Syrian state media is reporting the country's foreign minister says aid groups like the Red Cross will not be allowed into Qusair until military operations are over. Qusair sits on the Syrian-Lebanese border and is a major transit point for weapons and fighters with the anti-government Free Syrian Army. Kelly McEvers, NPR News, Beirut.
Meanwhile, Republican Senator John McCain accuses the U.S. of sitting by and watching as Syrian President Assad gains the upper hand in his battle with opposition fighters, and he says it's a mistake to believe diplomacy will resolve the civil war. McCain met with rebel leaders last week during an unannounced visit to Syria. He says the U.S. should use unmanned missiles to destroy runways, and rebels should be provided with ammunition and heavy weapons. This is NPR. Supporters of the death penalty in California have hit another roadblock. A federal court is accusing the state of misleading the public about drugs used for lethal injection. And as Steve Julian of member station KPCC reports, for now at least, the state's halt on executions will continue.
The last time California carried out a death sentence was in 2006. A federal judge put a stop to executions, concluding the 3-drug mixture the state used amounted to cruel and unusual punishment. Last year, Governor Jerry Brown ordered prison officials to figure out how to use just one drug, as some other states do. But in adopting those rules, the appeals court found the state not only failed to explain why it was switching the mixture, but also denied the public the amount of information it deserved. The state disagreed, citing the 29,000 public comments it responded to and the 100 people who spoke at a public hearing. Not enough, said the judge. California has more than 700 inmates on death row. For NPR News, I'm Steve Julian in Los Angeles.
Serena Williams won today's match at the French Open in Paris. She's advancing to the quarterfinals. And she broke a personal record, extending her winning streak to 28 straight matches.
I think now it's definitely really consistent. Every match I'm really, I think, focused for the whole period time, the whole time. And I think I really want it every match.
In men's play, Roger Federer beat Gilles Simon to advance to the quarterfinals himself. He did it after falling and twisting his foot. Federer was chasing a shot and his right shoe got caught in the red clay court. I'm Barbara Klein, NPR News in Washington.
Hey, sports fans, have you ever wished there was a live and local all-sports broadcasting network, but wish no more? It's ISBNsports.com. Kitsap's only live and local all-sports 24-hour broadcasting network, featuring the Kitsap Blue Jackets, Olympic College Rangers, high school athletics, and the ISBN Sports Show every Saturday morning from 10 to noon with interviews from exclusive guests from around the Sound. So, you want sports? Go to ISBNsports.com.
Heather Madden, former machinist, wins success as a skilled professional rock star.
No more working dusty old machine shops for me. Being the boss of my own professional rock band has improved my life in every way, and I owe it all to the cool gear at Kitsap Music.
What do you want? Substantial spare time? Groupies? Leather pants? Use only certified cool products from Kitsap Music.
The Home Buyers Association of Kitsap County is an association of professional builders, subcontractors, service providers, and purveyors representing the home building industry. For more than 50 years, the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County has provided information, education, and services that promote the health and welfare of the home building industry. As leaders of the industry, the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County fosters safe, affordable housing and addresses issues affecting our industry. To find out more, visit them online at kitsapHBA.com.
The Kitsap Humane Society is an independent nonprofit committed to providing positive, life-changing solutions to people and companion animals. Our vision is that every adoptable animal has a home. In 2010, we rehomed 4,111 pets. For more information on our programs, services, and animals available for adoption, visit us on the web at kitsap-humane.org. Kitsap Humane Society. Rescue, rehabilitate, rehome.
Brothers Power Sports has been a locally owned family business in Bremerton since 1949. From new and pre-owned motorcycles, ATVs, scooters, boats, and watercraft to parts and service and apparel. Brothers Power Sports is committed to being your source for all your motorsports needs, and they're a proud sponsor of the Habitat for Humanity of Kitsap County. Brothers Power Sports, 5205 1st Street in Bremerton, and online at brotherspowersports.com. Stop in and feel the difference at Brothers Power Sports in Bremerton.
As Kitsap County's largest maintenance provider, Team Innovative in Paulsbo provides commercial and residential maintenance to hundreds of millions of dollars of local real estate. With services including parking lot maintenance and street cleaning to landscape and design, Team Innovative is committed to using a green approach and following a strong environmental conscience. Team Innovative Services, 697-6858, or visit them online at getinnovative.net. Team Innovative Services, get serious, get innovative.
Greed, deception, abuse of power, that's no plan. I'm the enemy. Because I like to think. I like to read. I'm into freedom of speech and freedom of choice. I'm the kind of guy who likes to sit in a greasy spoon and wonder, gee, should I have the T-bone steak or the jumbo rack of barbecue ribs with the side order of gravy fries? I want high cholesterol. I want to eat bacon and butter and buckets of cheese, okay? I want to smoke a Cuban cigar the size of Cincinnati in a non-smoking section. I want to run through the streets naked with green jello all over my body reading Playboy magazine. Why? Because I suddenly might feel the need to, okay, pal? I've seen the future. You know what it is? It's a 47-year-old virgin sitting around in his beige pajamas drinking a banana broccoli shake singing, I'm an Oscar Mayer winner.
You're listening to the Outlaw Radio Network. OutlawRadioNetwork.com.
All right, it's the Outlaw Radio Network.
Did you recognize the clip?
I believe that was Dennis Leary, wasn't it?
It was from the classic '90s movie Demolition Man.
I love Leary, man. Dennis Leary's awesome.
That's why, by the way, his strip's like, it sounded a little bit staticky. Yeah, well, the fucking movie's 20 years old. What do you expect? You know how hard it was to find that.
Did you record that off of a VHS tape?
No, but the only recording I could get of it was just I had to filter it a lot and I had to slow it down and just make it sound like it was actually Dennis Leary and stuff like that. But
you know, there's people at home right now going, "What is a VHS tape?"
Right? Yeah. It's right there next to my betas and my floppy disk.
Speaking of your floppy
and your
disk,
HD DVDs. Come on, Blu-ray, HD, same fucking.
You should just be
swearing
quiet.
left to right. Every time you open the mic tonight, you're swearing.
You just
terrible.
Hey, so who got married today?
My buddy Jeremy.
Jeremy?
Yeah. Did you welcome him to the worst years of the rest of his life?
I tried to warn him.
Who did he marry? What was her name?
Ping Pong.
Or his?
No, her real name.
Ping Pong.
Her real name.
That's what I know her by, Ping Pong.
You don't know her real first name?
She's Asian. She's Ping Pong.
That's racist.
You know, it's funny because actually somebody else asked me, like, oh, she was actually standing in front of me. She and her friend or whatever. She's like, what's my name? I was like, Ping Pong. I don't
Hey,
know.
Strip, stop talking
anything
and do me a favor and go over and close the door you left open there to the studio there, bud.
You close it.
He is in a...
Oh, he muted your mic too. Look at that.
I told him. I warned him. It might happen tonight.
Putting you in place. All right, let's introduce our guest that's in studio. He's,
I would, but my look, you can hear me again.
Good friend of mine, and actually, not only do him and I both work for the same federal agency,
Just
but
say it.
We were in the same training class together. We were hired at the same time,
and the trainer training class,
and then we were made trainers at the same time. So we were trained to be trainers at the same time.
Is your work? Are your bosses okay with you being a trainer? Do they know you?
Clearly, they weren't thinking
Ooh.
it through. But
they clearly don't pay attention to your Facebook page, do they?
No, my Facebook
that's
page is
illegal.
fine.
Hi, my name's Kevin, and I got issues.
No, actually, that really is illegal now.
It is not illegal.
Yeah, there was a new our governor in Washington State.
That would be a state sovereignty issue then, and that would not make it illegal federally.
And I work for the federal government, so it doesn't matter.
Still in Washington, though.
So
that's
Leroy
debatable.
Jenkins, Leroy Jenkins joins us in studio.
Dude, seriously, where did you? Who did you decide you wanted to be called Leroy Jenkins?
No, that was.
I
Kevin.
gave him that.
Oh, that was
nickname.
Kevin. You don't even know who Leroy Jenkins
I
is,
know
do
who
you?
Leroy Jenkins
do you?
is.
Did you play WoW?
I'm not a WoW player, but I'm.
But you know who
Get
Leroy?
that right
Okay,
up on your mouth,
so-
though, Lee.
Okay.
You gotta have that right up to your mouth.
So Kevin, you picked the name Leroy Jenkins?
Yeah, I did.
Did you know? You even know where that came from?
Yeah, Leroy
Okay.
Jenkins. Yeah, that's funny to me. Hilarious to other people who play WoW because I've never played WoW, but I get the gist
I
of
used
it.
to play it years ago, and actually, to tell you the truth, that was one of the funniest damn things I ever saw on YouTube, man.
It is.
But can I be honest? And I think Lee would agree with me with
Yeah.
this. If I played
You
WoW,
get-
I would be that guy.
You would.
Yeah, I would be the Leroy Jenkins guy. I would just run in there and screw it up. for
What, a
everybody
plan?
else.
Yeah, let's go run in and take care of business. You know, it's like
Right.
what? This isn't Halo, Kevin.
we actually have, and I'm gonna play this later on the show tonight because you brought up Leroy Jenkins, and you guys are gonna find this incredible. You don't even have to play World of Warcraft, and again, I haven't played for years, but there's a clip, and it's called "The Mad Arab" that somebody recorded It was of a raid. Basically, it was like 40 different people, and they had all their headsets on, and they went in and they were supposed to kill this great big dragon. And this guy with this hardcore Arab accent is like the raid leader, so he's in charge of all 40 people, and this dude fucking loses it. And it is just goddamn funny. I mean, I almost pissed my pants when have you heard it?
Yeah.
Oh God, it is so funny. So we're gonna play that later in the show, just because it's too funny not to. So anyway, on to the serious stuff, because we've got people in here that are responsible, wholly or in part, for ruining many people's lives around the country.
Shut your holes.
Oh wow. Okay, we're gonna start like
it's
that.
not true.
It's totally not true. But that okay, we'll start
It's okay.
with that.
It's okay. I don't want to get him defensive right off the bat here, Kevin. So
Well, hold on. Let's do this. Let's
yeah.
open this before we get to the issues with
Yeah.
the Internal Revenue Service.
Sure.
Let's lay out some ground rules about what exactly the Internal Revenue Service does, because I think the first thing we do is let's educate a little bit as we understand what the actual goal of the agency is.
I think that's very fair. But before you say that, we'd like to preface this. When I say we, I mean people on my side of the aisle. Would like to preface this by just about anything you have to say at this point in time with regards to what the IRS does or does not do is to be taken with a proverbial grain of salt. Okay, go ahead.
If you want to believe that. And I want to stress, and I'm going to ask Lee to verbalize this as well for the security of our jobs.
Now, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't mean. We're going to give each other a lot of grief here for those of you that are listening over the next short period of time. Please understand that when it is over, we will all probably shake hands, have a beer, and a really good laugh over this. But the topic is not less serious because of it.
No.
So when we give each other grief about this, we're going to kind of do it in a very playful sense. It's not, we're not going to come to blow. Well, Kevin and I may eventually.
Won't be the first time. Think about how many headphones I've broken in this studio.
But it will. We're gonna try to really dig though. We're gonna try to be very open and very honest. And so when they think I'm being a complete douchebag, I'm sure they're going to tell me. So okay.
But like that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So the views expressed.
And by the way, I'm all by
and-
myself here, so I'm not feeling a little bit alone or nothing because I can take it.
Well, and the thing is, like you said, we're going to be fair.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. The views expressed
I'm
by
gonna be
myself,
fair,
and I think I speak
I'm a
for Lee, but I'll
conservative.
ask him to verbalize it. But the views expressed by myself are just strictly my views, my opinions. I do not speak for the agency, the government, the Internal Revenue Service, or anybody else. I love my job.
Yeah,
So,
me too.
yeah.
I mean, this is me being a taxpayer.
Yeah. Yeah, the opinions are just ours, so we'll just get that out up front. So, Lee, correct me as we go, okay?
I'll do my best.
The basic overview of what the IRS does, overview-wise, is to essentially enforce the nation's tax laws.
Correct.
Now, you can argue the tax laws, you can argue the tax base, you can argue the tax rates, you can argue all of that. That is not the IRS. The tax laws and the tax rates and the tax base, all of that is figured out by Congress.
Correct.
When the budgets are passed and how the tax laws are set, that is all Congress. All the IRS does is they play policeman. For example, if you don't like the laws, you don't get pissed off at the cops who are asked to enforce the laws. You get pissed off at the people who pass the laws. And that the IRS is essentially the cops when it comes to tax laws. Now, there are some enforcement questions that we'll get into, but that is basically the gist. Now, the IRS can enforce them in different ways and different things. Now, Lee and I work within compliance of personal taxes. So a lot of this stuff, when we get into small business,
Or the 501c3
501c3s,
Right.
any of that.
We want to make sure that everybody listening understands that you guys have nothing to do with that.
Yeah,
That's correct.
Yeah, they're based out of Cincy.
Is this a proper phrase for me to use? Are you guys, is the agency itself very compartmentalized?
I think that's a fair statement. I mean, there's.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
No, I think it's a fair statement. There's a lot of functionality that is very specific, and very specific to specific kinds of taxes, and some that is more broad-based to cover all operating divisions.
And I think that the reason I asked that, I know the reason I asked that is because I want people to understand that the issues that we're going to talk about are not issues that you guys ever have or ever will be in any way, shape, or form involved with. In fact, the only association is because you happen to work for the same agency. That's the issue.
I won't say never just because it's ever evolving. So
It's kind of like me being in the army and being associated with the army soldier that walked into a village and killed a bunch of people in Afghanistan. It's like, hey, listen, I may want to defend him as a soldier because I'm, in the military or in the army with him, but sorry, he was in a different unit.
Yeah,
So-
I think the military. I think the military example is really good because just because you are just because you're a tanker,
Fuck
for
me,
example,
I'm sticking up for the IRS.
Just because you're a tank guy. No, you're sticking up for us.
Yeah.
Just because you're a tank guy, but you're still a soldier,
right?
Doesn't mean that you know what what an MP does,
Right.
Who's also a soldier.
Or am I responsible for what happened at Abu Ghraib?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So
right.
So that's fair. So there's
An important distinction for everybody listening to understand.
So let's open up with what the first issue has been, and it's been the issue that's been going on for several weeks now.
Okay.
Actually,
before you do
listen,
that,
the timeline has been for several months, although it's been in the public forefront for several weeks.
Here's I want to take issue with what you opened with. Okay, and this is going to sound harsh. I don't mean it to, because I understand what you were saying, and I've made this point to you before, Kevin. But this is a point that gets made to be by a ton of people. And I mean, I get emails, and I have people say this to me in person because they've been listening over the last few weeks. They've been listening to the debate, and what the issue that people have is, for example, for example, I'm trying to be nice. It's like me looking at a woman and saying, "It's not you, it's me." And no, it's really you.
That's fine. Go ahead.
When you say, we're the enforcement arm. We're the policemen of the laws that Congress sets. Don't blame us, blame them. Right? I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what
For
you
the
were
tax
saying.
laws themselves,
for the tax
yes.
laws. And a lot of people, can't differentiate the compartmentalization. So they look at the agency as a whole and individuals within the agency, and they say, "Hey, listen, that argument didn't work for the Nazis at Nuremberg." And I know what you're thinking. Oh, don't compare. It's not about comparing. The point is that if you are working for an agency, if you are the policeman arm of something that you know is inherently not good, bad, or being misused, or being misapplied at the behest of the people that make the rules that you are paid to enforce, people are looking at that and saying, well, then you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, and you're willfully part of the problem. And that's where people to me said, listen, you're gonna have Leroy Jenkins on there. You're there. You're sitting next to Kevin. They work for the agency. This is our issue that we expect that as Leroy pointed out. He's like, hey, I'm a tax-paying citizen. I get it. This is my job, though. This is what I'm supposed to do. And the people are like, listen, that's great. We don't have an issue with that because obviously we don't have an issue with that and what you do because we still walk into H&R Block and pay our taxes, and we don't complain because we know that that's an important function of government and our society to keep everything going. But to be a person within that agency and to know that there is a huge inherent problem that's become clear, because I would be willing to bet anything that you guys had no idea, like the rest of us, that any of this was going on. Let's make that very clear.
No,
you guys didn't walk into work and go, fuck me, when people find out about this, it is going to get nasty. But so again, a lot of people have made the point to me, hey, listen, man, stress to these guys on our behalf that we believe very strongly that if you work for the agency, it's your duty, it is your responsibility to become an agent of change and not just accept it because you are compartmentalized. So that was the point.
That's fair, and I'll take issue with some of that later, I'm sure, but. I mean, I think the thing that I want to counter that with, just really quick off the bat, the issue of what our role is versus what we get to work with, I think is a very, very important issue. And
it's not like you guys are leading people to the gas chamber.
Well, no, but some people feel that way.
I know they do, right?
Right.
They do, and they talk about you guys like you're
until they talk to one of us. Until they talk to one of us. But
right.
but the reality is that, like with anything in the private sector, you have to manage resources. And one of the things that doesn't get talked about in a reality-based way is what the IRS has had to work with and what we've had to grapple with. I'll probably touch on that a lot later, but there are some very key things that have blossomed since really 2009 that have hurt the agency a lot as far as what manpower is being allocated for.
Sure.
And then we have budget and everything else, but we'll talk about that, I'm sure.
And the other thing that I want to address too is that in your reference to the Nazis and Nuremberg and all that, and I get the gist of what you're getting at, so I'm not taking it personal. But in order to use that analogy, you're basically implying or asking the question: do we agree that, or do we feel that what we're doing is in a whole wrong, or in a whole bad, or in a whole inappropriate? in what is coming out, does it appear as though there have been some things that have been happening that haven't been appropriate? That's the way it's looking. Okay. Have there been some other reports and things that come out that look like there could be some other stuff that may really be called into question? That's what it looks like. But as a general whole, and here's the difference between the analogy you drew and where I sit with this, is that as a general whole, the work that the service does, and by the service I mean the IRS, the work the service does is necessary and important for several reasons. And I still think the overall good of the agency outweighs whatever bad apples and whatever bad decisions are made along the way. So whether it is much the same way with you as a tanker guy, the role that the military plays is far better and far greater and far more good than the idiots at Abu Ghraib or the guy that walked into the Afghan village and killed the civilians. So I don't.
Yeah, you can't make that comparison. Trust me, as a tanker, we never discriminated.
No, I'm
sorry. That was a bad joke.
But do you understand my point, though? I mean,
I do.
The difference is the Nazis.
The
Nazis as a whole were evil.
But that wasn't the point of that.
No, I know
that wasn't the point of that reference. The point of that reference was one simple phrase in that the moral objectiveness or the moral imperative of the statement is simply thus that you can't use the.
I was following orders to do that. Right.
Yeah, exactly. You can't. That's the point of that argument.
Let me say this: I worked for a department store, and I'm actually going to throw their name out. And if you'd like to sue me, Staples, feel free. I worked for Staples.
Not a sponsor of the Outlaw Radio Network.
I worked for Staples for 4 months. Okay. Now, nothing they did was illegal, but I found a lot of things that they did to be unethical. Okay. We pushed service plans. We pushed add-ons. We pushed stuff that I didn't think they needed. We were required to try to upsell things to customers. I'd have a 98-year-old woman who would come in and buy a computer, and they asked me to try to upsell her to other things that I knew she didn't need it, but I was required as part of my job to upsell it to her.
Like the 10-year warranty?
Yeah, guess what, Sparky? She doesn't need a fucking high-def camera because she can't even operate half the stuff she's got, and she's not going to learn. I know what she's asked for. I'm not going to upsell it. It's the reason I quit. Okay? I have a modicum amount of morals in what I'm asked to do every day. I could not work in the agency if I felt like I was working against what I thought was of a positive idea. I could not be an instructor if I was instructing against things that I thought were positive. I just couldn't do it. For me, I have to be able to convince myself or know in myself that what I'm doing is, in my makeup, okay. If I have to talk myself into that every day for that hour ride ferry over there and the hour ride ferry back, I'd have quit by now.
You guys are simply making the point. Listen, from a morality standpoint, we know what we do is morally good, and because the system. And let's be clear. Okay, paying taxes, that's a voluntary thing. You can voluntarily not pay. Now, there are consequences.
Sure.
Let's be straight about that. But you don't have to pay. You don't have to go in and file. So,
And I'll be honest and say that there may be better ways out there to handle the way that things need to be than what they are now. A lot of people jumped on the Herman Cain idea.
But that's not the discussion for tonight.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to. This is the system as it is now. This is the way that it is now,
Correct.
And you have to have a level of enforcement because if you didn't enforce it, nobody would pay.
Now let's step to the next big issue here in this, which is
501c3 and C4s. Are that where we're going?
Not yet.
Okay.
What we were getting to was the power of the IRS is granted to them by the will of the people. And now we have a situation where, and when I say that by the will of the people, that means the government, because the government exists at the behest of the people. Okay, so now we have a situation where a major agency within the federal government, and let's be honest here, we're not talking, a Department of Education here. We're talking a major arm of the federal government, the revenue generating arm of the federal government, which now has a great deal more power in it because of the new healthcare bill that is going through, and now has a great deal of influence and control over that. So a lot of people have a lot of concerns with regards to the trust issue. How do you guys feel about that? How do you address that? Do you think that those concerns are fair and legitimate? Go ahead.
Okay, so I guess I'll jump in on that one with the Affordable Care Act.
I don't know the answer to it, by the way, so
well,
I'm not
I don't
trying
either.
to be too
I don't either.
coy with it.
But I think my biggest concern with what's happening with the linkage between what's happened with 501c3, C4s and the Affordable Care Act is nothing but fear-mongering, in my opinion. Because what they're trying to do is create a linkage that doesn't exist at this point. Can you make a plausible connection?
Wait, what linkage are you saying that people are trying to make?
They're saying that because this stuff happened with the 501c3 and C4s, really it's C4s, but...
and that's what he just said, by the way, is very, very true. Mostly it's just the 501c4.
Right. What's happening with that somehow has some weigh in on the Affordable Care Act and what the service is going to be controlling. Now, again, my knowledge on the ACA portion of it, I'm not totally clear on where the compliance is, but my understanding...
Don't feel bad. I read all 2,216 pages, and I don't know.
My understanding of it is it's the issue of making sure that everyone is covered, which means that they understand that they have a premium in some fashion that is being paid, whether it's by private or exchange or anything else.
Yeah, sort of. You're close. Close enough.
I think that's the basic thing.
Yep.
And then if they're not, my understanding is that's when that penalty comes in.
Yeah.
Okay. But the linkages that I'm seeing and hearing through my conservative contacts are saying that coverage is going to be denied, or that procedures are going to be denied, and that we're getting back into discussions of death panels and things like that again too. And I'm thinking, really? No, that's not where we're at. And I guess that's the concern that I have.
Sure.
If we have concerns about the issue of the 501c4s, let's deal with that, and let's remedy that trust issue, because that's a different issue than the Affordable Care Act.
Sure. And I think what you just said is 100% valid, and I think people need to take note of that. Now let me get a little bit more deep into what you just discussed. Part of the issues are, and this is going to get a little philosophical for some people, and I apologize, especially if you're on the left. Here's the issue. Or more of the issue. I'm going to expand a little bit on what you just said, because he really did a good job of pointing out what a lot of conservatives feel the issues are. But it gets a little bit more... The trust factor that we just discussed a few minutes ago has now manifested itself as the big pink elephant in the room, if you will. And so if you lose trust in an agency on one hand, because you never realized fully the extent to which people were being subjugated to different levels of treatment based on their political beliefs. Now you have the same agency that has control over not just your political prowess, not just your political group, if you will. They now have the ability to have all of the information and power over your health care, in the sense that now we know that if you read the Affordable Care Act bill, okay, a lot of decisions are made at a bureaucratic level. It's not clear at all what bureaucracies are going to make what decisions. Like, what group, for example, is going to decide whether or not a 12-year-old gets a kidney transplant? Well, we don't know the answer to that yet. What group is going to decide if a certain person gets a certain procedure, gets a mammogram, or whatever? Those things are actually very unclear at this time.
All right, so let's do this. We'll take a break.
Yep.
When we come back from break, we're going to continue this. And I sense that this discussion will take the rest of this hour and probably move into next hour.
Yeah, but this is good. You guys need to listen and stay tuned, because this is the kind of stuff where people get made to either feel a whole lot better or a whole lot worse.
Outlaw Radio Network. We're back after this.
All right.
The Outlaw Radio Network.
Hey, sports fans, have you ever wished there was a live and local all-sports broadcasting network, but wish no more? It's ISPNsports.com. Kitsap's only live and local all-sports 24-hour broadcasting network, featuring the Kitsap Blue Jackets, Olympic College Rangers, high school athletics, and the ISPN Sports Show every Saturday morning from 10 to noon with interviews from exclusive guests from around the Sound. So, you want sports? Go to ISPNsports.com.
Heather Madden, former machinist, wins success as a skilled professional rock star.
No more working dusty old machine shops for me. Being the boss of my own professional rock band has improved my life in every way, and I owe it all to the cool gear at Kitsap Music.
What do you want? Substantial spare time? Groupies? Leather pants? Use only certified cool products from Kitsap Music.
The Home Buyers Association of Kitsap County is an association of professional builders, subcontractors, service providers, and purveyors representing the home building industry. For more than 50 years, the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County has provided information, education, and services that promote the health and welfare of the home building industry. As leaders of the industry, the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County fosters safe, affordable housing and addresses issues affecting our industry. To find out more, visit them online at kitsapHBA.com.
The Kitsap Humane Society is an independent nonprofit committed to providing positive, life-changing solutions to people and companion animals. Our vision is that every adoptable animal has a home. In 2010, we rehomed 4,111 pets. For more information on our programs, services, and animals available for adoption, visit us on the web at kitsap-humane.org. Kitsap Humane Society. Rescue, rehabilitate, rehome.
Brothers Power Sports has been a locally owned family business in Bremerton since 1949. From new and pre-owned motorcycles, ATVs, scooters, boats, and watercraft to parts and service and apparel. Brothers Power Sports is committed to being your source for all your motorsports needs, and they're a proud sponsor of the Habitat for Humanity of Kitsap County. Brothers Power Sports, 5205 First Street in Bremerton, and online at brotherspowersports.com. Stop in and feel the difference at Brothers Power Sports in Bremerton.
As Kitsap County's largest maintenance provider, Team Innovative in Paulsbo provides commercial and residential maintenance to hundreds of millions of dollars of local real estate. With services including parking lot maintenance and street cleaning to landscape and design, Team Innovative is committed to using a green approach and following a strong environmental conscience. Team Innovative Services, 697-6858, or visit them online at getinnovative.net. Team Innovative Services, get serious, get innovative.
Greed, deception, abuse of power, that's no plan. I'm the enemy. Because I like to think. I like to read. I'm into freedom of speech and freedom of choice. I'm the kind of guy who likes to sit in a greasy spoon and wonder, gee, should I have the T-bone steak or the jumbo rack of barbecue ribs with the side order of gravy fries? I want high cholesterol. I want to eat bacon and butter and buckets of cheese, okay? I want to smoke a Cuban cigar the size of Cincinnati in the non-smoking section. I want to run through the streets naked with green jello all over my body reading Playboy magazine. Why? Because I suddenly might feel the need to, okay, pal? I've seen the future. You know what it is? It's a 47-year-old virgin sitting around in his beige pajamas drinking a banana broccoli shake singing I'm an Oscar Mayer win.
You're listening to the Outlaw Radio Network. OutlawRadioNetwork.com.
All right, it's the Outlaw Radio Network as we move into the bottom half of the second hour. Thanks for checking out the show. St. Paul, the voice of reason. Your mic's not on.
Oh, my. Okay. I had my finger holding it down.
Not funny.
Leroy Jenkins joined us in the studio as well. Are you putting? You're not putting Leroy on the camera strip? Is that correct?
You guys make this difficult for me. You always want so much.
Ken's like, I gotta hit another button to do that.
What part of I've been drinking tonight or today?
Fair enough.
Did you
I
not
can't fault him for that.
Right? It's I always joke with everybody. Maybe you guys can appreciate this. I would tell people, listen, there's only 3 real excuses for ever missing work.
What's that?
I'm asleep, I'm drunk,
Right.
or I'm getting laid. Like those are the only 3 legitimate excuses for missing work.
I've actually used all 3 of those.
I believe you. I believe. No joke.
What if you're doing all 3 at the same time?
I got to tell you, this was
Then
funny.
I'm drunk, and that's all my look.
Well, he's not.
Oh,
if he's drunk and getting laid, he's not asleep.
My boss
so.
is pretty legit.
Well, I don't know.
right?
It could be afterwards.
I've seen that happen.
Well, that's true. You could be sleepwalking. Right?
Let me say this. My
Good
boss.
point.
My boss. This is his thing. You got sick time? Go ahead and use it. I don't care what the reason is. If you want to call out and you got time to spare to burn, go ahead and use it.
Really?
Yeah,
That's cool.
I was dating a girl once that was working for a local bank, Washington Mutual, I think it was. And
I miss Washington Mutual, man. They were a good bank.
And her boss wrote her up for being hung. The girl had never drank. She had a few beers, and she went into work hungover. She didn't even know. She thought she was sick. She didn't even know what a hangover was. The dude wrote her up for having a hangover. Wow. What kind of freaking dude? She was at work. She was doing her job. She was just hung. I just look back on that and go, what kind of an asshole writes up a young teller at a bank for being hungover? I'm like, she's doing her job, dude.
Yeah,
she's there, right?
Yeah. So anyway,
what do you
I
want
don't even
from
know
her?
why I bothered to say anything about that. It just
she probably turned him down on a date request, and that was his way. To
So
get
listen,
back.
I thought you guys would find this funny on the IRS.gov under the Affordable Care Act provisions.
Yes.
And this is kind of, I think this is why so many people are concerned. Literally, there's one paragraph about how the new Affordable Care Act will impact your taxes. And I think that myself included, I read that and I go, I read the 2,216 pages. One paragraph don't cover the breath mint I have to take when I'm reading that shit. It is, I mean, there is so much that will impact so much to try to make it seem like, oh no, it's fine.
Is it because it doesn't take effect until 2014? Is that maybe why they?
Hey, in case you didn't notice, that's next year.
I know. I'm just saying, is that I'm trying to.
I think that's why.
Maybe.
Listen, a lot of people are anticipating, no joke, that the Affordable Care Act is going to be in for its toughest test with regards to legitimacy here over the next 6 months, because most states right now, and I mean when I say most, I mean most, don't have and can't set up their state exchanges, which poses a real problem. That's the pinnacle. That's the linchpin, if you will, of making the entire system work. In fact, as IRS, you guys may not know the answer to this, and feel free to say I don't know the answer to this. If I, for example, okay, in my tax bracket, which is low,
like the rest of us.
Yep. Okay, my employer doesn't provide me with health care because he can't afford it because we're in construction, and the market is down. Whatever. Now, if I go pay the penalty, can anybody tell me what healthcare bracket I then fall into?
No.
No. Exactly. No. And here's the funny part. I can't find the answer to that. So, again, those are questions that are serious that we're sitting there. But yet I can go to websites and calculate my income and my family size and know that it's going to cost me $2,580. So it's going to cost, I know exactly how much it's going to cost me, but I can't tell you what I get for that. And those are the kinds of things that denote problems. And I don't just mean for conservatives when I say this, but I mean a lot of the people that are very apprehensive. They're looking at this stuff going, we can't get the most basic questions answered.
Right.
And now here's an agency that we've got major trust issues with because they've politically targeted us because of our political beliefs.
I'm going to take issue with that in a second.
You will absolutely be able to. And so they say we've got an organization that's politically targeted us. Now, I am paraphrasing what many people out there are saying.
Sure.
Okay. And they say, and we can't get the answers to the most basic questions about this new provision with regards to the Internal Revenue Code and to our healthcare system. So everything is changing with regards to the IRS and our healthcare all at once, and they are connected. And yet half of this system is in the IRS we now have a major trust issue with. So when you combine all, it's kind of like a marriage, right?
Sure.
In the sense that, well, my wife has cheated on me and now all of a sudden I have to trust her again. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's take issue with the political targeting.
I threw a lot at you, by the way, and I'm sorry about that.
No worries. I like you, I can field it, The issue that I have here is the issue of everyone saying political targeting, because I actually went back and looked at the list of the ones that have been approved since May 9th.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at the provisions of what the 501c3 and C4. C3s can't do any political work at all.
Answer one question really quick. Right. The list that you got, this wasn't because of our where we work. This is actually public.
No, this is me.
This is public information.
No, I wanted him to clarify that though for the listeners at home where he found that out.
It's public information because the thing concerns me because like you said, I'm a federal employee. I take pride in the work that I do.
Well, and based on your job title, it's your personal integrity.
It is.
It
is.
I
mean, everything comes down to what service I can provide, and honestly, everyone that I'm talking to is just like me. Mm-hmm. So, I get concerned when the red flags about what my agency says that we're targeting. Like, really? Because I don't see that in what we do, but it could happen. Let's find out. Mm-hmm. And what I noticed is that the 501c4 provisions allow these are predominantly nonprofit or tax exempt, I guess is a better way to put it, tax exempt organizations that provide for social welfare.
Well, they have to provide, in order to get your 501c4, you basically have to say, I am out on a social basis to do this for the good of the community as a whole. That's
Right.
That's a real broad paraphrase.
Right. So the broad paraphrase and the understanding that has been prior to 2010 is that that's not a political organization. That is a local community-based organization designed to help the local community. With Citizens United coming in and the laws of free speech and the use of money as free speech, okay, that puts a very nebulous region where organizations now have the ability to use their free speech to maybe broaden that base of appeal.
Absolutely, yes.
That's a problem because now you have a code that's already kind of nebulous but is generally understood into something now that has a major loophole for anyone who wishes to use it for political activism.
Right.
In looking at the list of the ones that have been approved, I looked at them, and almost all of them, progressive and conservative, made themselves look like they were far larger than a local community. From my understanding, and from what I know of what the agency's role is we are there to deal with what tax code is and try to administrate it. Those kinds of things, if they're not filled out properly, if they're not filled out completely, and if they're not going by the guidelines that are set for that type of tax-exempt organization, they're going to get flagged. And they're going to get worked on. And if the information doesn't come back, or if it doesn't come back complete, you're going back and forth. Add into that an agency that is now, almost all agencies have for the last 3 years, have not had a hiring benefit. They've had their budgets cut. They've had locality pay frozen. People are being offered early retirement. You're looking at a situation where you have fewer and fewer people doing work that would normally take major scrutiny to process quickly. And you have an influx from 2011 to 12 that really wasn't prepared for.
Let's and for those that are asking the question, well, let's read this from IRS publication 557. A 501c3 is a religious, educational, charitable, scientific, literary, testing for public safety to foster national or international amateur sports competition or prevention of cruelty to children or animals organizations. A 501c4 is civic leagues, and that's pretty broad.
Right.
Social welfare organizations, again, that's pretty broad.
Right.
Would it be considered a social welfare organization?
Who Outlaw?
Outlaw?
Not a chance. And local associations of employees. Again, that's not so broad, but it could be interpreted in a whole lot of different ways.
Exactly.
So, and for example, let's look at the social welfare organizations. One of the organizations that is actually suing the IRS right now, and I can't think of their name off the top of my head, but that's kind of an irrelevant point. Their issue is they were going to go teach citizens within their community, and I think it was Texas, to recognize voter fraud and fill out the proper forms and report it. So they were an education-based organization, and their entire goal was to teach people to recognize voter fraud, and that was it. And they were targeted because they had either Tea Party or Patriot or something like that in the title of their 501c4.
So question.
Yes, go ahead.
Do we have confirmation that that's why they were targeted?
Well, you have confirmation in that in the hearings they were. The point was made that in fact organizations were targeted based on target words, so that when they filled out their applications, if target words showed up in the application, they were targeted for additional scrutiny.
Okay,
and that's part of where that's part of where the issue comes into play. And I'm gonna read. Here we go. This is and I don't know. This is breaking news as of today. So again, you guys may not be familiar with this. So I will read this to you to see if you are or not or whatever. And interviews with IRS employees have a step. By the way, I better source this really quick. This is Mail Online. So this is UK Mail Online. IRS employee in bombshell congressional interviews about Tea Party targeting. Washington D.C. wanted some cases. I sent 7. Now, I hate headlines for that reason. Right. That is very misleading, I think.
I would agree.
And it tends to make people think one thing when something else may entirely be the case. And here, let me read this. Interviews with IRS employees have established that the Washington, D.C. headquarters of the Internal Revenue Service was engaged in targeting Tea Party groups and other conservative organizations for unfair levels of scrutiny when they applied for tax-exempt status. Rep. Darrell Issa, chairman of the House Committee of Oversight and Governmental Reform, made the announcement on CNN Sunday morning. As late as last week, he said, the Obama administration was still trying to say the IRS targeting scandal was from a few, quote, rogue agents in Cincinnati, when in fact the indication is that they were directly being ordered by Washington. This is big news.
Okay.
If it's true. I mean, if it's true, it's literally
So-
as a bombshell would be an understatement.
I disagree, and I'll explain why.
Okay, well, let me finish reading the
Okay.
article, and then
Okay.
I'll let you explain. Actually, before I say anything, I would like you to go ahead. You can go ahead and comment on it. A committee spokesman sent Mail Online partial transcripts of 2 interviews with unnamed IRS. God, I hate that. Unnamed IRS workers. I mean, I get it. I just hate it because it's like Eric freaking Holder going in and just saying, "Oh, I want these 900 fucking phone lines tapped." About the agency's actions in 2010, on whose testimony Issa based his bombshell statement. One of those interviewees said it was impossible for a few. Now, this is really, I think, where you guys may be able to shed some light. One of those interviewees said it was impossible for a few IRS agents to have orchestrated such widespread partisan targeting on their own. Did your supervisor give you a quote? Did your supervisor give you any indication of the need for the search for Tea Party groups? Any more context? One IRS witness was asked in a closed-door interview. He told me that Washington, D.C. wanted some cases, came the reply. The employee, who said he or she was evaluating 40 such applications for tax-exempt status from conservative organizations at the time, said some went to Washington, D.C. I personally sent 7. The interviews, which are still ongoing, are being conducted by Oversight Committee staff in conjunction with the House Ways and Means Committee and include both Republicans and Democrats. The employee told these congressional investigators that IRS headquarters had requested 2 specific cases for review. Again, I want this to be a scandal because I want somebody to go down for this. But to me, that phrase, that line, that doesn't mean shit to me. I don't find it at all odd that a couple of groups, just because they're 2 groups being conservative seeking extra scrutiny doesn't mean anything to me, but that's just me. The allegation has been made, I think, as you have seen in lots of press reports, that there are 2 rogue agents in Cincinnati that are some sort of responsible for all of these issues that we have been talking about today, the investigator noted. What do you think about these allegations? It's impossible, the employee replied. As an IRS agent, we are controlled by many, many people. We have to submit many, many reports. So the chance of 2 agents being rogue and doing things like that could never happen. Asked whether the problem was originated in and contained in the Cincinnati office, as some Obama administration officials in Washington, D.C. have claimed, the agent replied, I still hear people saying we were low-level employees. So we were lower than dirt, according to people in D.C. So take it for what it is. They were basically throwing us underneath the bus. We didn't do anything wrong, the agent said, according to the partial transcript. We followed directions based on other people telling us what to do. Question, did those directions come from Washington, D.C.? Answer, I believe so. Another Cincinnati IRS employee, whom the Oversight Committee described Sunday as, quote, more senior. I love it. Who is this person? Well, he was more senior than I was. Why wouldn't you just say his name or his title or his position? Right. Told the investigators that he or she applied for another job in 2010 out of a desire to avoid connections with a program that targeted certain Americans because of their political beliefs. It was the whole Tea Party thing. It was the whole picture, the senior agent said. I mean, it was micromanagement, the fact that the subject area was extremely sensitive and it was something that I didn't want to be associated with. It is what happened now that the employee said he or she was trying to prevent involvement with. I mean, rogue agent, even though I was taking all my direction from EO Technical, the exempt organization's technical office in Washington, D.C., see, now that's more specific. Now at least they're pointing a finger, right? I didn't want my name in the paper for being this rogue agent for a project I had no control over. 3 separate congressional committees will hold hearings in the coming week about the IRS scandal, including a House Oversight Government Reform hearing Monday about the agency's problematic pending of more than $60,000 to produce 2 comedic videos for employees to watch during a 2020. I just don't care about that. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, go ahead. You wanted to comment.
So, first on the issue of rogue agents. It's not common, I don't think. I wouldn't envision it being very common, but it is possible. I mean, we are pretty large as an agency.
I think, though, what they're saying is in their office with what they do, that's just not possible because of the level of oversight.
I would disagree on that. But
okay,
Can I interject
that's
one thing,
good.
too?
People should know that.
Yeah. The guy that says, they said, did the orders come down from D.C., and the dude said, I think so. Back me up on this if you agree or not, Lee.
I was heading there, but go ahead.
There's no way that any of us in our office where we work would know where the order came from, because of the linear chain that is in place in that workplace structure. It goes. I mean, if you wanted to trace this back to Obama,
yeah, but
I'm just saying, if you wanted to trace it back to D.C., you'd have to start to D.C.
You're
and
getting
then
off track, though. This person is listed as a senior agent. I think the first thing you need to do is establish what is a senior agent within the agency. Because I don't know. People, the layman, they don't know what a senior agent is. What is that?
That could be anything, and you could label anyone senior or not senior just by the amount of time they've
So
served.
in other words, it's not a title within the agency.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No,
So
but I would guarantee you he's not a member of management.
But if he's being interviewed and being questioned,
hold on, let me back up. I can't guarantee that. I would guess he's not a member of management.
Listen, somebody in your position, no offense, is not going to get called in front of Congress.
No,
you're
no,
not.
I don't.
So your boss may. So is it safe to assume that somebody that they're going to refer to as a senior agent is at some level of management?
No.
Okay.
I
mean, it seems plausible to me. It seems reasonable to me.
It could be. I mean, it depends on
More likely than not.
No, it depends on what function they're in, really.
Yeah.
Because the chains of command are, I'll be honest, are a little bit wacky and convoluted. But it depends really on what they do.
I would say too, Congress may pull one of us in if we're the guys, if we're the people that are whose names are on these
I think
requests that are being delayed.
But I think the point is here is if you have to do anything, are you the only one that ever sees it? Is there somebody always checking over your work? Is there somebody always watching what you do? That's the point. What's the level of oversight?
That really depends on function. It really does.
Our function is different than theirs. For example, we're not reviewing applications. We're not reviewing requests. We're not reviewing those.
But they're making the point that when they review requests, it goes through several layers.
Yeah, and I don't know.
And so that being said, if that's the case, then that's a lot more plausible. And that's why he's saying 2 rogue agents, it's not possible. There's too many layers of security. There's too many layers of oversight. There's too many people that see everything that goes on.
So let's take that, okay, and we'll put on to what some of the other issues are here, which is the streamlining of applications based on certain criteria.
Mm-hmm.
So private sector, when you run into a crunch and you don't have enough manpower, you try to streamline your process. Every private sector function does this. Every agency has had to do this. I know since I became a part of the agency, I mean, it's been constant, reduction in how many bodies we have to do the job and still requiring to do the load. That's a problem when you have jobs like this that require a lot of human scrutiny. They can't be automated. It can't be done. So what do? Even when I was working tech, you have this problem. You can't. There's certain human elements that you have to have in place in order for them to work right.
Mm-hmm.
And if you automate them, you create problems, major problems. So when you're looking at things like charitable organizations, that's kind of easy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no politics, nothing. So anything related to politics kind of goes away. In the case of the social welfare, where politicking can happen, that's harder to judge. And so you now have to get clarity, and you have to say, okay, I need to find a way to streamline cases and say, these ones need scrutiny, these ones do not. And that's not necessarily a good thing in some ways because of perception. And that's kind of what we're dealing with here is perception. Okay? Mm-hmm. In looking at the list that I saw, from my standpoint, as a taxpayer, not as a liberal or a conservative or anything else, as a taxpayer, I would want to have those groups justified. Because they don't scream to me like I am taking care of my town, my city, my community.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing things for them. I am looking at something far larger than that, and I'm not taking care of social welfare. I'm trying to politic.
Right.
That deserves scrutiny. And if I'm a taxpayer, I want the IRS to do that job so that they're not having to not pay taxes.
Sure. I understand what you're saying, but the problem with that argument with regards to this issue is that what the numbers bear out is that there was a direct targeting of the organizations based on their political beliefs and the names that were listed in their titles, whereas groups of a political belief of the same mindset of the administration were readily and immediately approved, including. Well, I'm sorry that the facts don't bear that out. Actually, it is very true. In fact, the president's own brother got a 30-day approval on his 501c4 organization. By the way, nobody answers the phone. It's a P.O. box. So it's ridiculous, the assertion that that's not what occurred. It absolutely is, and the numbers and the figures are completely backing that up.
Well, and when I looked at the list for the more progressive groups that I saw, I would want them checked as well also.
Yeah, but they're not. That's the thing.
No,
they're not being
on
checked.
They're on the same list. They're in the same time frames as the other ones that had been held up. And
no, there weren't any progressive groups on the list.
Oh, there certainly are.
I didn't see one.
If you look at the list from May, what has been approved since May 9th.
What list are you talking about? What was your source? Do you remember off the top of your head? We can look it up during the break.
Let's take a break.
That's if you remember, because let's be honest, there's a lot out there. There's a lot of lists.
Yeah.
So
and
I got to open a window and it's getting stuffy.
It's very warm in here, and it's going to be worse when we get if they ever show up. We're supposed to get Loesch and and Peroni.
The idea
and
here is that there were both on that list. I thought, looking at them, none of these groups should just get a whitewash. Sure. And a lot of them didn't have paperwork filled out to where it met all the qualifications to be a 501c4.
Sure. I don't think it's the issue of extra scrutiny. I think the issue comes into what kind of scrutiny. Questions like, what did your group pray about? Those are the kinds of issues that people
hold
take
on.
issue with.
Let's address that, because the next question before we wrap this and move on to the spending questions is the questions that are being asked. Because you and I have talked about this before, but I think it's an important question.
Was I right
What
or
are they
wrong?
asking and why are they asking it? We'll talk about that after the break. It's the Outlaw Radio Network. St. Paul, the voice of reason. Kate, the loose cannon. Leroy Jenkins in studio as well. Top of the hour news is next, and we're back after that.
The Outlaw Radio Network.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Jim Hawk. 2 wildfires burning in New Mexico's Santa Fe National Forest have grown considerably since yesterday. From member station KUNM, Carrie Young reports the fires have burned more than 14 square miles and are not yet contained.
State forestry officials say while the Tres Lagunas and Thompson Ridge wildfires are still growing, crews on the ground are making good progress on building containment lines around the blazes. A forecast of thunderstorms will bring some much-needed moisture to the area. However, State Forestry spokesman Dan Ware says gusty winds could complicate matters.
With these little thunderstorms comes the chance for downdraft winds, which could serve to push the fire beyond lines and just make the fire activity a little more intense.
Nearly 200 homes are threatened by the blazes and have been evacuated, although no structures have been burned. Both fires started as a result of downed power lines. For NPR News, I'm Carrie Young in Albuquerque.
A wildfire that has destroyed 6 homes north of Los Angeles is continuing to expand into unoccupied territory, but hundreds of houses in foothill communities remain evacuated. A U.S. Forest Service spokesman says crews are attacking the 41-square-mile blaze burning in the Antelope Valley on 4 fronts. The fire is only about 20% contained. Part of the same storm system that spawned tornadoes in Oklahoma and Missouri Friday night has reached the Northeast. Weather Service forecaster Dan Hoffman says the system has lost some of its strength, but there are still dangers.
We do have an unstable air mass that extends all the way down the East Coast into Northern Virginia. So there have been thunderstorms with a lot of lightning and heavy rain, some gusty winds and small hail.
Tornado alerts were sounded in Maine, but there was no major damage, while trees and power lines were knocked down in Vermont. Russia has blocked a UN statement of alarm about the worsening humanitarian crisis in the Syrian city of Qusair. An estimated 1,500 wounded people are trapped there as government forces try to oust rebels. NPR's Nathan Rott reports that the blocking of that statement is just the latest setback for diplomatic interventions.
After a trip to Syria last week to meet with rebel leaders, Arizona Senator John McCain went on CBS's Face the Nation Sunday, saying that a diplomatic solution to the Syrian crisis may be wishful thinking.
Anybody that believes that Bashar Assad is going to go to a conference in Geneva when he is prevailing on the battlefield, it's just ludicrous to assume that.
That conference in Geneva is being co-sponsored by the U.S. and Russia, though no date has been set. Some, including France's foreign minister, are calling that conference the last chance for a negotiated solution to Syria's bloody two-year civil war. Nathan Rott, NPR News.
Japan's Nikkei average tumbled to a 5-week low on Monday, the Nikkei off just over 2%. This is NPR News. Since the financial crisis, the U.S. and other countries have sought to strengthen global banking regulation, but Steve Beckner of Market News International reports that the Federal Reserve's second-in-command doesn't think enough has been done.
Fed Vice Chair Janet Yellen says the world's financial authorities have unfinished business in their effort to prevent future crises. Speaking to bank executives in Beijing, she says the Basel Committee of Regulators need to complete work on increasing bank capital and leverage ratios and calls for more cross-border standardization of banking rules. A steeper capital surcharge on the biggest banks may be needed than the one proposed, she says. Yellen also says steps must be taken to address risks from problem areas that arose during the last crisis, such as money market funds and short-term securities financing. For NPR News, I'm Steve Beckner.
Facing questions about the targeting of Tea Party groups, Danny Werfel is scheduled to make his first congressional appearance as acting IRS commissioner Monday when he appears before a subcommittee of the House Appropriations Committee. His appearance comes after reports surfaced about a government watchdog group finding the Internal Revenue Service spent about $50 million to hold at least 220 conferences for employees in the past couple of years. Werfel has termed it, quote, an unfortunate vestige from a prior era. Fast and Furious 6, with its supercharged muscle cars, held on to first place at the box office for the second consecutive weekend. The magic heist thriller Now You See Me opened in second place, while After Earth was third. Epic and Star Trek Into Darkness round out the top 5. I'm Jim Hawk, NPR News in Washington.
Hey, sports fans, have you ever wished there was a live and local all-sports broadcasting network? Well, wish no more. It's ISPNSports.com. Kitsap's only live and local all-sports 24-hour broadcasting network featuring the Kitsap Blue Jackets, Olympic College Rangers, high school athletics, and the ISPN Sports Show every Saturday morning from 10 to noon with interviews from exclusive guests from around the Sound. So, you want sports? Go to ISPNSports.com.
Heather Madden, former machinist, wins success as a skilled professional rock star.
No more working dusty old machine shops for me. Being the boss of my own professional rock band has improved my life in every way, and I owe it all to the cool gear at Kitsap Music.
What do you want? Substantial spare time? Groupies? Leather pants? Use only certified cool products from Kitsap Music.
The Home Buyers Association of Kitsap County is an association of professional builders, subcontractors, service providers, and purveyors representing the home building industry. For more than 50 years, the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County has provided information, education, and services that promote the health and welfare of the home building industry. As leaders of the industry, the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County fosters safe, affordable housing and addresses issues affecting our industry. To find out more, visit them online at kitsapHBA.com.
The Kitsap Humane Society is an independent nonprofit committed to providing positive, life-changing solutions to people and companion animals. Our vision is that every adoptable animal has a home. In 2010, we rehomed 4,111 pets. For more information on our programs, services, and animals available for adoption, visit us on the web at kitsap-humane.org. Kitsap Humane Society. Rescue, rehabilitate, rehome.
Brothers Power Sports has been a locally owned family business in Bremerton since 1949. From new and pre-owned motorcycles, ATVs, scooters, boats, and watercraft to parts and service and apparel. Brothers Power Sports is committed to being your source for all your motorsports needs, and they're a proud sponsor of the Habitat for Humanity of Kitsap County. Brothers Power Sports, 5205 First Street in Bremerton, and online at brotherspowersports.com. Stop in and feel the difference at Brothers Power Sports in Bremerton.
As Kitsap County's largest maintenance provider, Team Innovative in Paulsbo provides commercial and residential maintenance to hundreds of millions of dollars of local real estate. With services including parking lot maintenance and street cleaning to landscape and design, Team Innovative is committed to using a green approach and following a strong environmental conscience. Team Innovative Services, 697-6858, or visit them online at getinnovative.net. Team Innovative Services, get serious, get innovative.
Now I lay me down to sleep. A bag of peanuts
Let it
at
play.
my feet.
Let it play. Let it play. Kevin's gonna love this.
Really?
You're gonna love it. Turn it up a little bit.
It's a cover of Metallica song.
It's
and I
not a
hate
cover of Metallica song. Shut up and let it play.
It's better.
He knows exactly. I think Lee knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And for everybody out there, this is one of those files that St. Paul gave to me to play for an intro.
Yeah, because it's just listen. Just turn it up a little bit.
Keep talking a little bit though, so we don't get copyright.
Oh, we're talking, but
you need more hair for that, Kevin.
Oh, seriously, I'm talking.
Mr. Journey fan.
That's all right.
I figured he'd like it.
Did you know that Journey and Rascal Flatts? Oh, look, it's Sarah and Strip, and they're getting their freak on.
What the hell?
Sarah, come in here for a minute. Sarah, come here.
Oh, no.
Sarah, come in here. Sarah, come here.
Look, she's like, no.
Sarah.
She's running.
Oh, they're putting on a show for us. Sarah, come here. Sarah, come in here.
No, Sarah's not putting on the show. Caleb's putting on the show. Sarah's
Come in here,
just
will ya?
forced to be part of it.
Sarah, will you come in here just for a minute?
She said she thinks I'm drunk.
Just to leave the door open just for a second. Lee, would you hand her the mic just for a second? I want to ask her a question. Just don't be like that with me. Aren't I
What?
always nice to you?
No.
Just answer a question.
Okay.
Do you love Caleb?
Forever and always.
Forever and always, you love him?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that a song?
Strip,
Forever and always.
Strip, do you
Right?
love
That's a
Sarah?
song, right?
Strip, do you love Sarah?
No, turn your mic on when you say it.
Do you love
No,
Sarah?
turn your
Strip?
microphone on, Caleb.
I love you too.
All right.
That's such bullshit.
Hey, when are you guys have another
She's
baby?
telling the
You guys
truth.
gonna have another baby? No, I don't think so. I think you should have one named Kevin. You should have one more named Kevin Paul.
Think about it, though. They got it perfect. Caleb brings a little boy to the group. She brings a little girl. They're set.
Yeah. That's true.
Damn it. They got... Oh, okay. Well,
Are you mad
congratulations.
that you don't have a daughter?
Well, I'm not mad that I don't have a daughter. Not at all. But I would actually... If I could say...
hold on. You know why he's not mad?
Why?
He doesn't have to keep his shotgun loaded.
That's true.
He's
That's
right.
true.
Yeah, you got pissed off at me there for a minute until you heard
He's
what
right. I
said.
did. Yeah, he's right. I would be one of those complete hypocrite dads of a little girl. I'd be like, my son would be like, Dad, I slept on my PT teacher, and I'd be like, high five.
Okay.
My daughter come home and say, Dad, my teacher looked at me funny. I'd be like, I'm gonna kill the mother. Right? I totally would too.
So here's the deal.
Yeah,
Before
go
we went to
ahead.
break, we were talking about the
Yes.
questions that were being asked of these agencies.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
I will just say this, and then
Mhm.
I'll let Lee chime in, and then I want to switch gears before we lose Lee, and then we can come
Right.
back to some of this after 9:30.
Roger that. Okay.
I don't have an issue with most of what I've seen on the questions. Most, and I'm only, as I said before when we talked about this, I'm only going to address copies of the actual forms that I've seen sent. I don't want to see the paragraph that says, and they also asked me what size condom I wear. I don't care about that. I want to see the actual copies of letters that were sent from the IRS, not some conjecturous bullshit that they said was included, but we don't get to see the copy of the letter.
Well,
because anybody can make up what they said, what they were told. So in the actual copies I've seen, it's questions about what was covered in your meetings, what are the copies of your minutes, what are things like that. If they're a nonprofit organization, the IRS wants to receive, I would assume, and I'm not in that unit, so I don't know, but I would assume that they want to see copies of that to prove that they are indeed a nonprofit organization, so that not just any moron is trying to get tax-exempt status when they're really not. So I don't have an issue with that.
But Kevin, you're so glossing over what the stuff that's actually gone on here, and you're hiding behind the idea. Well, I'm only going to address what I've seen on the internet, and I submit to you that first of all, somebody's not going to go testify in front of Congress that here's my documentation asking me what I was praying about, and then they're just going to say it and not present that. Okay, that gets you into a whole lot of trouble.
Real quick,
yes,
we have a caller on the line.
A caller.
His name is Michael. He wants to know if you want him to come on now or a different time.
When is he going to be in studio?
Different Michael.
Oh, it's a different Michael?
Yes, different Michael.
Should we bring Michael on now?
You know who he is.
Is it Mikey Maloney?
No.
A different Michael?
Different
How
Michael.
many Michaels do we know?
He moved away from Washington.
Oh, is it my
recently.
son?
Yes.
Ask my son if he'll call in at 9:30.
All right, I will
our
do.
time in 15 minutes.
Sorry for interrupting you, by the way.
Thank you, guys.
St. Paul.
Thank you. Michael, I love you, but we've only got Lee for 15 more minutes. Okay.
Anyway, I get
all
what you're saying, Kevin. I just think that's
Well, have you seen? Have you?
I've seen a lot of
That's what
documents.
they
I've read a
testified at on Capitol Hill.
Absolutely, yeah, it's absolutely. Listen,
Okay.
the 5 hours worth of testimony is all on YouTube. You can go watch it all. It was all broadcast live on C-SPAN. I watched about half of it, and again, it's the accusations with regards to the excessive questioning are very, very legitimate. It's questions like, here's a good example. Okay, you had a teacher who part of his group was going out again, like I was talking about, teaching people to recognize voter fraud. And one of the questions asked of him was, who taught you and who taught them? Okay, who have you taught and who are their parents? Okay, that's the kind of stuff you can't answer those questions. You can't, and that became the basis. Now I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but the ACLJ. The American Center for Law and Justice has filed a massive lawsuit against the IRS.
Right.
For it's essentially it's not a class action, but it is a group action suit.
Right.
And it is directly. They're not looking for monetary damages, by the way. You know what they're looking for? Immediate approval of the 501c4 status, which they can go to court and ask for. So they are going to court to press the issue to say, hey, these organizations were unfairly targeted. Questions outside of the realm of the IRS's ability to know or their knowledge were asked, and therefore we asked the court to remedy the situation by immediately granting the 501c4 status. Now, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say to you whether or not they're going to be successful. But I guarantee you, lawyers don't go file suits like this unless they feel like they've got a very strong case. They just don't do it, because it will ruin their careers, especially a huge nonprofit like and they are basically the anti-ACLU essentially.
Right, I know, and I guess here's kind of where I would go with that. For something like that, there's a couple of angles that pop into my head.
Mm-hmm.
First, who taught you those kinds of questions? Coming from who provided you the information. They probably want to make sure that you've been trained to recognize voter fraud. I mean,
I'm catching a lot of supposition from you and Kevin on these questions, though.
Right, but that would be my thought. The second part of that is that if someone is providing this, and you are paying them as part of your nonprofit status, you are providing them for their services. That's another issue as far as income, I would think, that may or may not be claimed. So it's another way of double checking on self-employment income. That would be another angle that I would think.
Yeah,
I don't work in that department, so I can't gauge that. I don't know what.
Let me give you the only kind of avenues that I think Lee or I can draw from our experience with this. Lee, correct me if you think I'm going too far in my explanation too. If you think I'm giving too much information out. One of the types of cases we'll see a lot.
Too much information.
Okay, just kidding. Move on. One of the cases we'll see a lot is something that's called an underreported income. And another thing that we see is what's called an exam. Now, the exam, I think, is probably more applicable to this, which is where somebody may have claimed something on a return that the IRS has a question about. So this could be a tax credit. One of the most common ones that I think that we see is when somebody claims a dependent, and then the dependent is questioned later. So that may be you and your wife both separate, and you both end up claiming the kids on the return. And maybe you filed yours first electronically. You got the refund. She files it later. She claims the kids as well, and now you're being reviewed on the exam to see who can claim the dependent. We know from our experience, even though we don't work in that unit, that there are specific things they look for in that unit, because we get a lot of phone calls about that allow someone to claim a dependent. It allows that unit to determine which of the parents should be claiming that kid. Okay, so they'll give a specific list, and we never see the list because we don't see the report, but we know some of the common things. In this case, would be doctor's notes, school records,
proof of residency,
things like that. So when we talk about questions that may seem frivolous or out there, but apply to the unit that's trying to make the determination, that's what we're using as our basis. I don't know, for example, how a doctor's note means anything, because or how doctor's records may mean anything. Because when my sons lived with their mother most of the time, I still took my sons to the doctor and to the hospital. It didn't mean they didn't have a primary care physician in Bremerton, even though they lived in Everett. So to me, that seems frivolous, but to that unit, it matters. It means something. So I think when we are drawing, we can only base from what we do know about different units asking questions that to us don't make a lot of sense. But to that unit, it makes sense because they combine it with all the other data. So I just want to lay that out there. So when we're commenting on that, we don't know what they're looking for.
Well,
we just know from what we've seen from other units that are asking questions.
Again, I get that, but considering what we're talking about, it would behoove you to go. For example, you can go to the aclj.org website, and they actually have there. You can go there and read the complaint. You can read the lawsuit that they have filed. And
is there copies of the documents on there that are asking for what they're asking?
Yes.
Okay, I'll look at that.
Now, I'm going to read to you the article that they have posted on their website, and then I'm going to actually ask you guys one very serious question, since I know we only have another 10 minutes with you, okay, bud? So here's what they wrote. The American Center for Law and Justice today filed a significant lawsuit in federal court in D.C. on behalf of 25 Tea Party and conservative organizations against the U.S. Attorney General, Treasury Secretary, and Internal Revenue Service, including top IRS officials named personally. The IRS and the federal government are not going to get away with the unlawful targeting of conservative groups, according to Jay Sekulow, chief counsel of the ACLJ. As this unconstitutional scheme continues even today, the only way to stop the flagrant and arrogant abuse of our clients' rights is to file a federal lawsuit, which we have done. The lawsuit sends a powerful message to the IRS and the Obama administration, including the White House. Americans are not going to be bullied and intimidated by our government. They will not be subjected to unconstitutional treatment and unlawfully singled out and punished because of their ideological beliefs. Those responsible for this unprecedented intimidation ploy will be held accountable. The lawsuit, posted here, and that's where it allows you to pull up the entire lawsuit as well as all of the discovery documents that go along with it, urges the court to find that the Obama administration overstepped its authority and violated the First and Fifth Amendments of the U.S. Constitution, the Administrative Procedure Act, as well as the IRS's own rules and regulations. The lawsuit requests a declaratory judgment that the defendants unlawfully delayed and obstructed the organization's applications for determination of tax-exempt status by means of conduct that was based on unconstitutional criteria and impermissibly disparate treatment of the groups. The suit seeks injunctive relief to protect our clients and their officers and directors from further IRS abuse or retaliation. Furthermore, the lawsuit seeks compensatory and punitive monetary damages to be determined at trial at a later date. So this lawsuit doesn't establish any kind of monetary damages. It basically just goes in and says, take a look at the information. If you believe that we're right, we want our 501c4 status now. The lawsuit, the ACLJ cites 6 counts arguing the federal government violated the Constitution, federal law, and even its own rules and regs. The suit contends that the Obama administration unlawfully delayed and thereby effectively denied approval of plaintiffs' applications for tax-exempt status. Now, I know this is... for some people, this is a difficult thing to put two and two together on this one. And I'm not saying this in a political context. But the truth of the matter is that what occurred here, because these groups were conservative, right-leaning groups, you would be remiss in your responsibilities, Kevin, to not admit that this had some effect on the election. Now, it may not have changed the results, but that's not for us to decide. The point is by delaying these applications from before and through the election, it would have been a significant effect on those organizations and their ability to do whatever it is that they were going to do based on their political beliefs and the election. That's just the reality of it. Now, I'm going to finish reading.
Go ahead.
Further, the complaint asserts that the federal government's unlawful conduct included, but was not limited to, excessive scrutiny of plaintiffs' applications by requiring donor names, listing of issues important to the plaintiffs' organizations, including their positions on such issues, the contents of communications between the organizations and legislative bodies, the applicants' criteria for membership, volunteer names, and the political affiliations of persons associated with the organizations. Again, all of that is very illegal, according to not only the IRS's documentation, but the Constitution. The ACLJ lists as defendants in the case the U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder, the Internal Revenue Service Treasury Secretary Jacob Lew, Stephen Miller, former acting commissioner of the IRS, Lois Lerner, Director of Exempt Organization Divisions of the IRS, Holly Paz, Director, Office of Rulings and Agreements, and unknown named officials inside the IRS. And it finishes off with the IRS contends that the targeting scheme originated with a couple of rogue agents out of Cincinnati, Ohio office, and contends the abusive conduct has been halted. However, the ACLJ has correspondence showing that the tactic was not only in the Cincinnati office, but also from two offices in California, El Monte and Laguna Niguel, as well as the national office in Washington, D.C. In fact, the Washington office sent a letter to one of the clients a month ago. Furthermore, the ACLJ has letters signed by Lois Lerner personally, director of exempt organizations, suggesting her personal involvement in sending invasive questionnaires to 15 clients in March of 2012, 9 months after she was told about the scheme and promised to stop it. They've heard from nearly 100,000 Americans calling on President Obama and members of Congress to end the IRS abuse, led by Chief Counsel, and that's just goes into some legalese there.
The Lois Lerner thing is a stamp. I mean, I think that
it is. Yes, it is a stamp.
That one's a stamp. Which honestly, the stamps are ones that go out on pretty much almost any letter that we send out. They'll either go out to the person who's in charge of a specific call site or a specific region or a specific area.
Mm-hmm.
So, that goes all the way up the food chain.
You are what you just said. I just want to make sure everybody knows this. He's 100% correct on that.
Right.
I've seen copies of the documents. Lois Lerner, it's clearly a stamp.
Right.
Her name. The only thing that I would say is, anytime you're in a position of authority and you're a government official and your name, even as a stamp, goes on anything, you're responsible.
Okay.
That's the reality of it.
And we could debate all of
There's
all
no
of those.
debate. Okay, Lee, there's no debate on that. If you allow somebody to stamp something, you're responsible.
You're taking you and your unit are responsible for what comes out of that. That part I'm not debating.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that Lois Lerner knew every single case that went through there because there's her stamp name on it. That's not just it's just not realistic.
Sure,
okay?
I agree with you, but you don't know that she didn't know about these cases.
Yeah, neither of us can assume that she knew or didn't know.
Right.
So the issue of going all the way up to Washington or going to other offices, where there is bandwidth, work flows. So if for example, El Monte and Laguna Niguel offices had some bandwidth to take care of it, some of that would have been routed. In the case of Washington would probably do the final level of oversight if there were still some questions. Mm-hmm. And a lot of this stuff has to do, from what I understand anyway, of things that aren't either filled out appropriately or complete. And so the form letter goes out. Here's your form letter. And it has all this other data that we want to get in, so that way we don't have to send yet another tree's worth of paper out to you. Mm-hmm. Now, again, the timeliness factor can go both ways. Again, I don't know each particular case. We've got over 1,100 or something like that, something ridiculous number, that we're dealing with here. But by the same token, this whole concept of streamlining workflow to try and get as many of these done as possible. in the amount of time as possible is hard. It's
Sure.
no question.
I think that's a valid point you're making, and I really want to stress that because there is a workload issue, there is a timeline issue, and there's a lot of other things going on. The only reason that I don't think that washes is because if you're allowing yourself the ability to target based on political beliefs, then the idea that, well, we were only doing it because of workload just doesn't wash for me personally, just because I'm looking at this saying you can't use the workload issue if your workload wasn't so great that you didn't have that you had the ability to target. Does that make sense?
Well, no, I understand.
Do you think that they targeted? Let me ask you that. Do you think that they targeted based on everything you've heard, including the testimony?
If what we're saying is targeting, saying these are bad, these are good,
Mm-hmm.
no. If you're saying targeting, saying we need to check these out because it looks like there may be an issue of political affiliation, either left or right leaning, because there are left leaning groups in there.
Now you're aware that they've testified that the higher ups within the IRS have testified in front of Congress that in fact the targeting occurred. So what I'm asking you is, now we know that the targeting occurred because they've said so, but now from your point of view, from your perspective, you're saying, yeah, but I think there's some misinterpretation here. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, from what I remember of Miller's testimony,
Mm-hmm.
Miller said, I think targeting is too harsh a word.
Yes, he did say that. Yep.
And I would agree with that.
Okay.
This is like keyword searching.
So we're kind of giving you the opportunity to fill in the blanks where Miller kind of fucked up.
Well, because here's how I view it. Watching testimony and figuring what I do, and having worked tech too, because I came out of tech before going to the agency, so I went through YouTube and Google. And keyword searching is huge. It is the only way to go, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So if you see a trend, and you see that trend has some merit to say, we need to. These are the ones that we keep pulling out for research. Why don't we say, if it doesn't have this, we can probably let a lot of it slide, and we can focus on the cases that we need to, rather than going hand by hand on each one that comes through the door.
Now I know I get what you're saying, so I'm not going to take issue with that at all. Now I have to, because I know we have to let you go. So I want to wrap this up with a direct question to the two of you, because the testimony that kind of came out today, or the statements that were made today by Daryl Issa or Issa, I don't even, dude, who spells their name ISSA anyway? Even though he's a Republican, that was horrible. I know. I'm going to hell. I have to ask. Because I've looked intimately at the articles of impeachment and as they were applied to Richard Nixon. Because as we know, Richard Nixon directly told the IRS to go target certain individuals. Now, right now, and I have to make this very clear, there is nothing to suggest that President Barack Obama did that. Okay?
Right.
But what there is a whole host...
Strip, hold off on break just for a second while he asks this question.
There is a
he's
whole...
going to leave us at break, so just stretch it for a minute.
There's a whole host of circumstantial evidence to suggest that there's a lot more to this story than we are aware. For example, the 118 visits by the IRS now, as Kevin to the White House. Now, as Kevin pointed out, with the implementation of Obamacare, it's to be expected that there are to be additional meetings, et cetera, et cetera. And I get that, but the argument is being made that 4 visits by the head of the IRS during the entire 8 years of the Bush administration, 118 over 5 years now, and the targeting from what is being sold, and I don't know if this is true. I haven't been able to vet this, but what is being sold to us is that within 30 days of the first meeting in the Obama administration is when the targeting began. So the first meeting of the IRS, the head of the IRS and the IRS labor union, their meeting at the White House is when the targeting began. Now, that could be completely coincidental. So my question is, with regards to the agency that you work for, at what point, and I'm not saying it would ever be at that point, but this is a total hypothetical.
Right.
At what point do you... would you have to have an agent come out and say, listen, I was in the White House, Andy Card, the president's chief of staff, said target conservative groups. I mean, what does it take for individuals within the agency to go, wait a second, dude, we're working for this guy, we're doing, you really fucking did this? What does it take? And then at what point do you feel that it has to go to for you to be able to say to people, okay, now shut up, it's over with, it's fixed? Do you see what I'm saying? So what are the two extremes for you guys as far as how you feel?
So if I'm understanding your question, it's more like what would it take for me to believe what is being said by ISA and those guys, and what would I say that, guys, shut the hell up,
Yeah,
it's done.
it's done. It's over. Yeah.
Okay. So what I would say as far as the ISA side is I would actually need to see, because I haven't even seen the transcripts that you're telling me are there, so I want to take a look at those.
And you can go, again, aclj.com or .org, and it's there.
.org. So I want to take a look at that, and I would like to have the list of, I would love to see the applications, the kinds of applications that got scrutinized.
Sure. And I bet you guys would have more input. You'd be able to look at that and take much more from it than even these lawyers for the ACLJ would. So I just want to make that clear.
As far as what would it take to blow it over? I mean, part of me is kind of there now, and the reason I'm there now.
You're in an extreme minority, then, by the way.
Well, I know. there are certain questions that I want answered. I mean, there are definitely some questions I want answered, but as far as making this larger than it is, which is we're talking about tax exempt status and making sure that every group who's supposedly supposed to pay taxes pays taxes. I mean, that's how I look at it from this point. Now, if we're talking,
you do hold on, I get what you're saying, but you do get that during an election cycle, you're seeing various degrees of abuse of power by every administration, and that means whether it's Bush, Clinton, whoever. I mean, they all to some degree abuse powers here and there. And let's not be coy here, okay? This last election was very, very tense, and there were a lot of negative relations within individuals. I mean, this country has really not been as divided as it is right now in 100 years.
Right.
So, with that in mind, the denial of the ability for one group or another to act in a political way, it does bear. I mean, that's a big deal, and I get where you're saying I'm almost to that point now, but that is some people could make the point and are making the point that because of the IRS's actions, that their actions had a direct impact on the last election cycle. Now, that may or may not be true. That's for the historians to figure out down the road.
Sure.
But the argument can be made.
Well, I guess the argument needs, from my point of view, would be debunked, because what you're saying is if they were going to make a political statement, then they shouldn't have had tax-exempt status in the first place. So therefore, their application should have been denied. So if you're making that's
not the argument that's being made, though.
Well, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, the argument that's being made is that these are organizations that wanted to educate and teach and show people certain things. And let's not mix words now. Super PACs and these 501c4s, there's a lot of them on both sides of the aisle that were very political. We know that.
Right.
And you can make the argument none of them ever should have been approved. I get that argument. I don't have an issue with that argument. But nonetheless, because of Citizens United, and again, this is going to make people like Klaatu jump up and down in his seat, which never should have been approved, but it was. So we can't, as the argument that Kevin made is, you can't throw the baby out with the dishwater, So it was approved. These are people that are acting within the rights of the law, and they were doing their part, and they were doing it, and they had a political motivation to do it. Because, for example, Texas, the group one, they didn't want illegal immigrants to vote legally in the state. Why? Because illegal immigrants tend to vote Democrat. Why? Because they tend to get, if Democrats are elected, they get more stuff, essentially. And those are how those people tend to vote. It just is what it is. And so is there a political motivation? Yes, there is. And because they know that they're going to educate people to vote a certain way.
All right, let's do this. Let's take a break. Can you stick around just for a minute to start off the next segment? Just to finish.
He's got to get home before the monsters come out.
I know. All right, stick around. One last break, then we'll wrap this up with Lee, and then I got to answer your questions too. Outlaw Radio Network. We're back after this.
The Outlaw Radio Network.
Hey, sports fans, have you ever wished there was a live and local all-sports broadcasting network, but wish no more? It's ISBNsports.com. Kitsap's only live and local all-sports 24-hour broadcasting network, featuring the Kitsap Blue Jackets, the Olympic College Rangers, high school athletics, and the ISBN Sports Show every Saturday morning from 10 to noon with interviews from exclusive guests from around the Sound. So, you want sports? Go to ispnsports.com.
Heather Madden, former machinist, wins success as a skilled professional rock star.
No more working dusty old machine shops for me. Being the boss of my own professional rock band has improved my life in every way, and I owe it all to the cool gear at Kitsap Music.
What do you want? Substantial spare time? Groupies? Leather pants? Use only certified cool products from Kitsap Music.
The Home Buyers Association of Kitsap County is an association of professional builders, subcontractors, service providers, and purveyors representing the home building industry. For more than 50 years, the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County has provided information, education, and services that promote the health and welfare of the home building industry. As leaders of the industry, the Home Builders Association of Kitsap County fosters safe, affordable housing and addresses issues affecting our industry. To find out more, visit them online at kitsap.hba.com.
The Kitsap Humane Society is an independent nonprofit committed to providing positive, life-changing solutions to people and companion animals. Our vision is that every adoptable animal has a home. In 2010, we rehomed 4,111 pets. For more information on our programs, services, and animals available for adoption, visit us on the web at kitsap-humane.org. Kitsap Humane Society. Rescue, rehabilitate, rehome.
Brothers Power Sports has been a locally owned family business in Bremerton since 1949. From new and pre-owned motorcycles, ATVs, scooters, boats, and watercraft to parts and service and apparel. Brothers Power Sports is committed to being your source for all your motorsports needs, and they're a proud sponsor of the Habitat for Humanity of Kitsap County. Brothers Power Sports, 5205 1st Street in Bremerton, and online at brotherspowersports.com. Stop in and feel the difference at Brothers Power Sports in Bremerton.
As Kitsap County's largest maintenance provider, Team Innovative in Paulsbo provides commercial and residential maintenance to hundreds of millions of dollars of local real estate. With services including parking lot maintenance and street cleaning to landscape and design, Team Innovative is committed to using a green approach and following a strong environmental conscience. Team Innovative Services, 697-6858, or visit them online at getinnovative.net. Team Innovative Services, get serious, get innovative.
I just want to say real quick.
It's not my fault.
No, I just want to say this
It's not my
because St.
fault.
Paul, for any of you
What?
that don't realize, the bump that was just playing was one of the bumps that Paul sent me and has bitched about me not playing. So
Well, actually, Caleb,
oh, you know what? Shut up. This is one of the bumps that he sent me.
What? I'm not. Don't look at me.
You're
You're looking at me like it's my fault he muted you. I don't have.
Fuck this shit. Hey, hold on. I'm not listening to one of you right now. I'm gonna go on a little rant right here for a second. All right, both of you, because you both bitched about it that this bump was playing. Yeah, you did. You said
my mic hot.
you said
I
is
said it was the same bump you
last
played
time.
before. You're
All
supposed
right.
to play different ones. is
Yeah,
what I
I'm
said.
supposed to.
Yeah,
but I
you're
got a lot of
supposed to.
stuff going on.
Yes.
All right. Yo, your mic's still dead. Your mic's still dead. Okay. All right. So, we just stop the bump and play the next one. It's cool. It's all good.
All right,
It'll sound fine. Yeah.
You
okay.
ran about this at 10 o'clock. Hold on. Let's wrap this with Lee. All right. So you were answering his questions, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay. No, I want you to have, because I know you got to get out of here.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the thing that I have a problem with now is we're trying to make linkages that don't exist. And I understand the fear side of it.
Well, in your opinion, don't exist.
That I haven't seen proof exist.
Okay.
I think that's what I'm looking at. I don't see proof that they exist. I'm not blind to it. I mean, I look for factual data that says here is the linkage, here is what we're looking for to show it. The information from the ACLJ, I'll be happy to look at because honestly, I want to see that if that's the case. Because if that's the case, I would take issue with it.
Yeah. If you guys found out,
hold on, can I answer the question before you ask another one?
In a second, if you guys found
right.
it, you can add this to the. Add it. It's
Okay,
only.
I'll add it.
It's
I'll
actually
add it.
just kind of a segue. Anyway, the point is, if you found out, how would you feel if you found out that there was actually a direct connection? If somebody within the administration itself directed members of the IRS to target these groups, what would your feelings be on that? Purely speculative for people that are listening.
I guess
Mindy?
if we're talking about targeting specifically because, and only because they are conservative, I would take issue with that. If they're saying it because they are, in fact, political organizations, and that's what we need to do because that's where the hits are coming.
I wouldn't have a problem with that either.
I don't have a problem with that.
I wouldn't have a problem with that either if it was just because you felt they were going to be political.
Right. And if the applications, the information, the bylaws, all the things that you put in there show that you're going to be politically leaning.
It's a big can. I hope that's iced tea. Otherwise, you better not drive. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if what you're doing is trying to apply for tax exempt status and your application doesn't show that you're going to really do that, I have no problem with you being scrutinized till hell freezes over. Personally, that's what I would want the IRS to do. That's what I would want the government to do, is to say, you need to pay your taxes. Sorry. I mean, we talk about, tax exempt and people not paying enough and makers and takers and all the other garbage that goes on. The reality is that if people are applying for this, they really need to be doing the service that they say they're going to provide and not just provide another front for a political mouth to open.
Okay. Now, Kevin, go ahead and answer those questions real quick.
All right, so
and then I'm going to ask one more last question of the two of you. It's going to be yes or no before you go, and it's kind of a fun one.
Yeah,
it's a fun one.
I like
Has
how
nothing
you
to do with the
just
political stuff.
lob stuff at us. Okay, so question number one is,
I'm just good at what I
how
do.
will I know if it's true or not? That was essentially the question. How will I know if it's true or not? I think I've already accepted it as true because they've already admitted on Capitol Hill that there was some targeting. Now, to what extent and what the intent was, I don't know. And I'll be honest and say that I don't know if in the next 10 years we're really going to know the extent of it. I think we're probably at the same place in a lot of ways where they were at during the Nixon presidency, where they just didn't know. There's a lot of rumblings and a lot of accusations being made, but I don't know when we'll actually have good, concrete, definitive answers from the administration. Not because it's Democrat, but because it's politics, and nobody's going to give anything one way or the other.
Right.
How will I know that it's time to move on? Honestly, I in a lot of ways I feel like it is time to move on already. In the sense of this, the Schulman, who was the acting guy in charge of the IRS, is gone. The guy that took over for him is now gone. The lady who was in charge of the nonprofit division has been
Is
placed
now in charge of Obamacare.
Now she's on leave. She's been placed on leave.
Wait, no, that's right. That's Lois Lerner, right?
Yeah, she's been placed on leave. Now,
who's the lady that's in charge of Obamacare?
That was going to be Lerner.
Oh,
she was the one
that's
She
tragic.
was the one that was going to move from that to the Obamacare.
Why would I not be surprised
But-
if we open up the paper next week and find out she was reinstated? Sorry, just
But
go
anyway,
on.
as of right now, she's on leave. So here's the question.
That's right. She refused to resign.
Here's the question. The question is what good do we do at this point to continue beating the drum? If there's going to be connections made past the upper levels of the IRS, then it makes sense to continue it. Meaning, if you can draw a correlation to Obama's White House, then it makes sense to continue going there. If you can't, then this is wasted time, wasted taxpayer money, wasted energy, because you're not going to. If you can't go any higher than Schulman, essentially, who was the guy that was in charge this whole time, then you're wasting your time and you're spinning your wheels, and you should be focusing on other stuff that this country obviously needs to get fixed. It really comes down to what the end goal here is. So my question is do you feel like you're accomplishing something now, or is it just about politics? And now I feel it is almost now more about politics than it is about fixing the issue.
Okay, that's such a. It's
No, no,
always
no.
about politics.
No, no.
This,
I know, and
it's
you're
about
right.
the politics of the groups that applied. You can't. You can't say that. That's a ridiculous statement. It's about
Let me rephrase
politics.
it then. Let me rephrase it then. I feel like it is now more about throwing mud at the Democrats and the Obama administration than it is about fixing the issue itself.
Well, I'm shocked that either one of you would actually say that, and I'm paraphrasing because
Sure.
Just because, listen, again, you don't know you don't know everything. And you both admit you don't know everything. So if you don't know everything,
Right.
why are you going to sit there and tell the
Because-
listeners of this show, well, I think it's gone on long enough? Well, I'm going to tell you why I think you said that. You say it because you both tend to lean a particular direction and you work for the organization.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you
no,
why.
I'm going to finish. I let you talk. So I'm
I
just
hadn't even answered the third fucking question
All right,
yet.
You're right. You're right. Go
Thanks,
ahead.
but let me address what you just said.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here's why. Because every single one of these congressional oversight committees, every single one of these special sessions, every single one of these get-together jerk-off circle jerks that they have go where?
Deeper.
Nowhere.
That's not correct
No,
at all. That's
nowhere.
not even. That's not
they
even.
don't ever
That
get
is
to a
so
resolution.
disingenuous. I would.
No,
I would,
it's not disingenuous. Listen,
It's almost a lie.
It's not a lie. If you want,
Are you-
if you believe
hold on,
that
there
hold
are
on.
80 IRS agents that have been detained for further questioning by your own police department.
Sure.
Okay? There's an IRS agent suggesting that the information goes to the highest levels of the federal government and the Washington, D.C. office within the IRS.
Right.
And you think that this needs to go away because
No,
it's not a big
hold on.
deal and
I didn't
you've
say it
heard
was a big
everything you
deal.
need to hear?
No, what I said was it depends what the end goal is. If the end goal is that you believe that this goes higher up than the guys
I'm
that have
asking what
already
you
left
believe.
office, I don't know because I don't know. I'm not in that unit. I'm not
Well
in
then,
that division.
well, then
I
it
don't have an
doesn't
answer.
stand to reason that you think it should go away.
I didn't say I thought it should go away. I said it depends what your end game here is.
Well, what's yours? You want it to go
My
away.
end game is to get a paycheck. Listen, my
Never has a more true and honest word been spoken.
listen. Again, it gets back to what the motivation is. If the motivation is that you can't go any higher up on the food chain than what you've attached it to, which is Shulman. What's the other dude's name that just resigned?
Miller.
But that's not how.
If you can't go any higher than Shulman, Miller, and Lerner, if that was the creme de la creme, then you have achieved your goal. And now it's time to correct the flaws that allowed it to happen. If you think you can go higher up the food chain, then you continue the investigation to figure out where it originated.
But isn't the primal
But-
question? Isn't the primal
but hold on.
question from there? Hold on. The primal question from there should be: if it doesn't go higher up the food chain, Lerner, Shulman,
Miller.
Good Lord, they're all Jews.
Wow.
They are
Native American right here.
It doesn't change the reality.
He says that he sounds like a Nazi.
So,
Native American.
so
Good
no,
Lord.
I'm just, because I'm having trouble with their names, and I'm Polish. I always have trouble with Jewish names. The point here is that yes,
you're
it's
Polish,
true.
you have
Listen, you've
trouble
never
with the
seen a
Bible.
Polak run as fast as me since, like, I don't know, Warsaw, 1939. Listen,
Never seen you run.
Here's the point. Here's the
Sorry,
point.
Ron Harmony had a bowling.
How
pin.
do you? You have to ask the question, don't you? What's the next question, Kevin? The next question is if it stops there with
Right.
Lerner and Shulman and those guys, if it stops there, what made them think that this was okay? Who gave them the idea? Who influenced them? They didn't just sit around one day and go, "Hey, I got an idea. Let's do this."
Oh, whoa!
But
let me hop in
Yeah,
on that
go
one.
ahead, go ahead.
From workflow, just basic workflow. The people who are going to be in charge of that thing are going to be the heads of the departments. In that case, it would have been Lerner, if I'm understanding correctly. Lerner would have been that.
She was directly in charge.
She would have forwarded that up to Shulman and said, "Does this sound like a reasonable way to go to try and streamline caseload?" If that is approved, at that point, you do it. You implement.
Yep.
Now, I got to be honest. From what I understand of this, that's what this is.
Mm-hmm. And I agree. Very well, maybe what it is. Yeah.
And realistically, it sounds like it.
Well, right up until the IRS agent today. Yep.
Well, even then, saying target is a charge word that says people are looking for specific things when it might be just a keyword search that says we're going to lump them all together. And that's different. That is very different.
Yeah, but you guys are both leaving out one very key point.
Which is what?
And that is that the Obama administration came out and specifically stated this was limited to 2 rogue agents within the Cincinnati office. Now, they either lied, okay? And I'm not here to tell you which they did, but they either lied or they were incredibly misinformed. So either way, all it does is raise a whole lot more questions. Now, none of the things that I just said is debatable because that's exactly what they said. They said it was 2 rogue IRS agents in the Cincinnati office. So they either lied, and this is the administration, the president, okay, because it was his guy, Jay Carney. That's the spokesperson for the president. He only goes out and says what the president tells him is okay to say. So he either lied, which I'd like to think is not what occurred, or there's an incredible level of incompetence somewhere between the communications between the IRS and the President of the United States.
I would probably lean more toward that side of things than anything, but that's just me knowing how Chinese whispers work.
Sure.
And
I would like to honestly believe, as much as I dislike the president, that is exactly the case.
Right.
Oh no, hold on. But let's be intellectually honest, though. I can't believe I'm the one who's going to say this. Of course, there's more to it than that.
Thank you.
Of course, there's more. Even if
I just led the Chihuahua down the path and you saw the hot dog.
Hold on. Even if they are completely non-complicit, even if the Obama administration is caught by surprise by the whole circle jerk that's going on here, they had no idea. They have to know more than what they know because now he is being briefed on it every day, right? We know that he's got a special advisor that comes in and sits with him in the Oval Office and busts out the little notepad and says, okay, B-Rock, here's where things stand. And B-Rock is literally sitting there shitting his depends going, fuck, man, really? Are you... This is probably a quote from the Oval Office. Are you fucking serious? I mean, that's really what he's saying, okay? And so now they're in damage control because it's how politics works. It's how do I cover my ass, not how do I make this right. I was watching MSNBC, St. Paul's favorite network. And one thing Rachel
Maddow... I actually
Maddow,
watch it more than any other network, and I am not a Dem.
One thing Rachel Maddow said that I completely agree with her on is she said they need to take a page from the Bill Clinton playbook, which is quit letting this shit drip out in small increments. Get it all out there, own up to everything, get all the information out there, own what you did, get rid of the rest, because the sooner you do that, the sooner this is done. And instead of just letting it be just this big spray of water in America's face, they're making it drips like Chinese water torture. And instead of it being like a one-time thing, now it's turning into these weeks and weeks of new developments. And if they just took something from the Bill Clinton playbook and said, fuck, here it is. Here's everything we know. All the truth, everything we know. Here it is. Here's what we're responsible for. Let Barack Obama get on camera, give his little sad little face and say, I didn't know this and I did know this and I'm responsible and here we are. You're not going to fuck up your re-election chances. You're not running again.
So the thing that I would say, less that Bill Clinton moment, we need a Bay of Pigs moment. I mean seriously.
Yeah.
We need to have basically a coming
attack.
Clean. No,
run away.
Come Jesus. Come to Jesus.
The coming clean moment.
Yeah. Glad we clarified that.
Yeah. No, we need to have that moment of candor where it's like, look, this is what happened. This is what we found out in our part of the investigation. This is what the Inspector General has found.
God love you, brother.
I mean, seriously, that's what needs to happen, and it needs to happen, from here on out.
You make me feel a lot better. I was starting to think you were some Che Guevara revolutionary over there.
And listen, they may be in the middle of doing that. Let's be honest. Because
they are not in the middle of doing that.
They may be in the middle of doing it because yesterday they announced that there's $50 million that was spent on conferences that was released through TIGTA, which is the law enforcement arm of the IRS that came out through this. So maybe this is maybe this is Obama and the IRS's desire that all of a sudden the light has gone on and they've just decided, look,
it's dim, but it's a light.
Well, yeah, all this stuff is going to come. All this stuff is going to come out at once. Let's just get it out now, because if we just get it out, we can deal with it and we can put it behind us because we got bigger fish to fry.
I can see Jay Carney tomorrow morning after hearing what Kevin just said at the press conference going, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I have something very important to tell you. I need you all to listen closely and pay very close attention. Take notes. Ooh, shiny object.
Well,
the interesting thing about just a little side note on the conference is most of that's pre-2010,
right?
Which I think is hysterical because pre-2010 before we
this
got
was-
there,
this
and
was
it's when
10
they actually had
This
a
is
budget.
10 to 12.
You know, to
Yeah,
do
right,
stuff
right.
with.
Well,
I mean,
they're saying 2010 to 2012.
You're like, you go to work, go, me, somebody passed a budget? What's that look like?
Well, and look, you know what it is? It's the IRS is already under a microscope because
Sure.
of all this stuff. Did you ever hear about the GSA? Did you hear about the GSA issue?
Are you talking
Government services when they had the big conference in Reno and they were giving away iPods and
I watched the
iPhone
video
and-
you fucktards made while you
Holy
were down there.
crap.
And I don't mean you as in you
didn't
two.
mean it,
I
yeah.
mean you guys as in your agency.
No, it wasn't
Yeah.
IRS that made that. It was the GSA. GSA made that. Not GSA is government.
Have you
Services
seen the
Administration.
videos that have
Yes.
come out that the okay? He's like
Yeah, but the
I've
one that
seen
was
the video.
made down
We
there
don't
was
need
a
to play the
GSA
videos because
video.
I can play the videos. They're right here. I can play the videos. We'll pop them right there on the screen. We play the video.
Yeah.
Listen, if you thought the Star Trek video was bad, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that I was going to rip on that.
By the way, does it piss you off that somebody within your own agency gets paid to actually think of that shit? You're like, I bust my ass doing my job, and
No.
somebody gets paid to sit
No,
around and think of that.
I don't because
It
listen.
does, because if I worked for him, I'd be like going, dude, I want his job.
Listen, I don't get mad about it because it is a business like any other business. People want to think that the federal government, this is a different kind of business. It's not a different kind of business. The Republicans have been saying,
yes, it is a
hold
different
on.
kind of
The
business.
Republicans have been saying for years, we need to run government like it's a business. Well, guess what? There is somebody who works for Hewlett-Packard that works in marketing and how to brand their business. This was somebody who had a bullshit way of branding the IRS, but it's somebody who was paid to do that.
I'm sorry,
It's-
you're not.
it's-
No,
What?
your analogy's way out.
You think so?
You're not providing a service or a product.
We're not.
No, you're not.
You are.
No.
You are providing
not.
a service to the American taxpayer. You are providing.
No, you're
a product.
not.
You're providing customer service to the American.
No, you're
taxpayer.
not.
Yes,
it's a
you
good time.
are.
It's a good time. This hour's over. But I'm just telling you, no, you're
You
not.
have no idea
We can
then.
do. We can do. I have a very
You
good
have
idea.
no idea.
When was the last time you passed an internal audit?
I have no idea.
Yep, exactly.
I'm not in that division.
Nobody
No,
has.
hold on,
Nobody
hold on.
has an idea.
Be intellectually
because you
hold
haven't.
on. Be
I'm
intellect-
being
hold on.
intellectually
Be
honest.
intellectually
You
honest. I
haven't-
wouldn't know either way because I don't work in that department.
No, it's very private.
Don't
It's
paint
very
it to me
public.
saying I don't know is indicative of anything with the service. I don't know because I'm not in that unit.
I'm
But I'll
just
tell you-
saying. All I'm
I'll
saying.
tell you something right now.
All I'm saying is the IRS has not passed an internal
Okay,
audit.
but you know what? For you to tell me that what I do
Yeah.
every day at my job is not providing a service to the American taxpayer,
No,
you
it's-
don't have a fucking clue.
No, that's you don't understand what a service is.
10
then.
o'clock.
I do know what a
No,
service is.
I'm telling you that your job, when you take a look at products and services, what the IRS does not quantify as a product or a service,
Yes,
as
it
a
does.
as a revenue generating product or service. It does not.
I don't know how you could even believe
For example, a product or a revenue generating service would be you calling the plumber and hey, I have a leak. Can you come to my house? The plumber then comes to your house. Which is what? It's your personal property. It's
Okay.
your personal money.
Let me give you a scenario then.
It's not the same thing. It's just not.
Let me give you a scenario. Trojo owes back taxes. Trojo owes taxes for the 2012 tax year because he didn't have enough money taken out of his paycheck.
Really, you shouldn't be talking about his shit on air, man.
Because he's black, he doesn't pay taxes.
Why you
Shut
gotta
up.
choose the black guy in the room?
Because
I mean, really?
because you're black. Do you need another reason? Look at you. You're black. Shut up. Okay. So
Wow.
Trojo calls.
Out of
nowhere,
Stop.
Trojo.
Don't take
Stop
that.
now.
Let the hits begin.
Why did he
Listen,
point at
hold
me,
on.
the white guy? I don't
In
know.
fact, we're not even taking the
think
top of the hour break because we got to bring fucking Michael Peroni in here in a minute because, I'm going to go to Seattle and I'm going to get something to eat and I'm going to show up 3 hours late for the goddamn show because I'm Michael fucking Peroni, the Hurricane fan. Just like the goddamn Hurricane showing up late. Oh, here's Michael fucking Peroni. Listen. You want an example of a service. So Trojo calls
It's
in.
not a revenue generating service.
Hold on. I'm going to tackle revenue generator in a goddamn minute. Trojo calls. He owes money on his back taxes. He doesn't know why. He just calls and says, well, I owe money. I don't know why. So I get to look at his shit.
Nobody
and I say,
doesn't owe. Nobody
hold
owes
on.
money and doesn't know why.
No, a lot of people don't know why.
Well, then they're idiots, and they should
are-
probably
well,
not procreate.
You may call
No.
them whatever you want.
Actually, I did have to wind up paying the IRS, but I didn't even know why because I was having.
Well, you knew why at some point.
So let me say this. A lot of people don't know why.
We're gonna talk about that.
A lot of people don't know why.
Motherfucking
And
H&R
half
block.
of what we do in our
H&R
unit
block
is
anymore.
education, which is, okay, this is why this is happening. Let's explain it to you so it never happens again.
Well, that's not a
So you
revenue
don't-
generating
hold
service,
on,
is it?
Hold on. A, That is a service. Now, you may knock it if you want to. That's fine, but it's a service. The revenue-generating part of that is you owe the government. Let's figure out a way for you to pay the government so you don't owe anymore, and the government gets the money it needs to provide vital services. That is revenue-generating. That is bringing money back into the government that needs to be brought
into the government. No, sorry, that's completely wrong.
Really?
Everything you just said.
So you honestly believe the
wrong.
IRS could just cease to exist?
Let me ask you.
Let
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Is paying taxes voluntary? And I know what the answer is going to be to this.
The answer would be no.
I know. No, it's not no.
If you like the consequences of said.
Now, if I raise my child who is 11 years old when he grows up, gets his first job, and I tell him, I say, never file. Is he ever required to file? Has he broken any law if he never files?
Now, as I understand that the caveat with this, we've talked about this before, is if you never file and you never have withholding and you never do any of that from the onset, then I believe there's a loophole in there that gets you past it.
Yeah, it's not just a loophole. It is. It's the law.
However, we're not talking about the loophole.
No, that's correct.
We are talking about people that owe because they have withholding, they have filed, they owe. It's an amount that's owed. And to the people who want to follow the loophole and not pay their federal taxes, go the fuck to Canada. Get the fuck out of the country.
Well, first of all, you speak about it. Hold on,
you have an obligation to pay the bills that go to cover the military and cover for the stuff that you enjoy in this country.
To some degree, what you just said is correct. However, you were speaking about it as though it is an absolute, and everybody has the right to dispute anything that is claimed that they owe.
Sure.
Therefore,
and I will always back that up.
It's not just an issue of if you owe, pay. It's an issue of if you owe and you don't think you owe, then you have the right to dispute. And everything has various levels and various degrees of complexities.
Yeah.
And with that being said, thank you very much, Lee, for coming in tonight.
Thanks for coming in, Lee.
Not a problem.
I can't
You're
believe
a righteous.
we don't
You rock,
provide a
dude.
service. I'm
just telling you look up goods and services in your economics handbook.
What I do. That's demeaning to what I do.
No, it's not.
That's demeaning to what I do.
I did not say you do not provide a valuable service. But when it comes to goods and services with regards to the gross domestic product or generating revenue within the economy of the country, I'm sorry, it just does not quantify.
You're right about
in
that.
realm.
I don't generate revenue to the economy except for the paycheck that I receive. However,
Which is a great thing,
However,
by the way.
I do help
It's a great
fund.
thing.
I do help bring in money that funds important social programs and pays for
And
our
there's
military.
just a different. That's why people
and
say.
I sleep very well at night knowing that I help. Bring in money that helps pay for our soldiers that are in Afghanistan fighting Al Qaeda.
I get that, but that's why.
I am responsible for fighting the war on terrorism. I feel much better about myself with that. Thank you.
We're going to leave it at that because we could
you
go on and on.
You
and
could go on
Lee,
now and just leave it right
I love
there.
you, buddy. Thanks for coming in.
Lee,
You're welcome
You
anytime.
rocked. You did great, buddy.
I'll
hey,
see
wait,
you at work
hold
tomorrow.
on. Lee, come here. On camera. Come here. I want everybody
He's
to see
been on
this.
camera the whole
I just want
time.
to shake your hand.
Trust me.
Thank you, dude.
Hey,
You
they'll
did
just-
awesome.
they want the
You did
handshake
great.
on camera.
You should have your own show.
Hey, Lee, I'll see you tomorrow.
All right.
All right,
Take
dude.
care. Unless, of course, he sees you first.
He hightailed out of here, too, after I blew my top. He was like,
Yeah,
what the fuck?
as soon as you went off on the black guy.
I cannot believe,
Gotta go off on the black
believe
guy.
you imply we do not provide a service. That's just,
I am being factually correct. No
You're
matter
not
what
being
you say,
factually correct.
you don't provide a
What do
goods
you-
or service.
So do you think prostitutes provide a service?
Yep.
Really?
Pretty sure.
All right, whatever.
But they don't pay taxes.
So in Paul's little world, prostitution is better than working for the IRS.
Well, I'm pretty sure you can go down to certain parts of Nevada and walk into certain stores,
Right.
and you can pay for a service. Last time I checked, I can't walk into an IRS office and pay you for shit.
Actually,
unless
you
I
can
owe
into,
you money.
You can walk into an IRS office and they will give you support and service for free because your tax dollars have already paid for it.
That's right. My tax dollars have already paid for it.
So it's free.
Yep, my tax dollars have already paid for
You're
it.
So what
such
he's
a
saying is he's
conservative, I swear to
providing a
God.
service.
Bring,
Wrong.
bring Michael Peroni's ass in here. Bring me Michael Peroni.
That's disgusting.
Bring Michael Peroni in here.
I don't think he has the courage.
Are you not coming in here? No last name.
Well, you're a little
When did
fucking
that,
late.
When did that start? We've only been saying your name on the air for the last 2 years.
For 2 years on air.
I'm sorry.
All of a sudden, he walks into the freaking room over there with the text.
No.
He's like, don't say my last
Don't
name.
say my last name. All right.
Don't say my last name. We've
All right.
only been calling you Peroni for 2 years.
And we've already said it 4 times. It's too late now. I'm sorry. Our listeners are stupid. Let's bring
It's
Michael.
like I had sex with a girl. I didn't use a condom.
bring in
Shit,
Michael Jordan.
It's not my kid.
Let's bring Michael Sharoni in here. Come on, Michael. I didn't say Sharoni.
Hoff and Seth Incorporated.
Is he not
We're
coming
gonna
in?
do it. What?
Michael, are you coming in here or what? It's after 10. Come on. It's 4th hour time.
What the hell is wrong with it? Why even come out here? Why did you even come
Are you
here if you're not
coming in
going to come
here?
in the studio?
Peroni, get your ass in here. They need
I
somebody
would
else
like
to
to
take
say
on
we
besides
still
the
got
black
a
man.
freaking caller on the line.
Oh, my God. Bring my son on the phone.
Holy shit.
Oh, now you want to bring him on the line.
At least he stayed on the line.
There he is. Joining us live from somewhere outside of Houston. What's up, Michael?
Hey.
Are you outside of Houston or are you in Houston?
I am outside of Houston. I am in Cyprus.
Thank God, because if you were in Houston, I'd be like, dude, how's Whitney feel?
Hey.
Oh, wow.
She's dead.
Oh.
That's my point.
She'd feel very cold and rigid right about now.
And scaly.
And the bugs.
But she wouldn't say
Could you imagine the scabs? That would just.
Hey, listen.
But she wouldn't say no.
Family moment for a minute. Did you go see Aunt Marjorie today?
I did not. The car I was going to use wasn't available.
Are you serious? That's
Holy
very
shit,
sad.
that's right. He's driving.
He is. He's
Finally.
So how's Texas, dude? How hot was it today?
What's that?
How hot was it in Texas today?
Probably, I want to say about 90. It was partly cloudy, though, so it wasn't too bad.
So hot. It was Africa hot. It was so hot.
Hey, Michael, can I ask you a question?
Shorts hot.
What's
Can I
that?
ask you a question? Are there a lot of black people in Texas?
Really?
Really? Yeah. If he's down in the Houston area,
there are a lot of
I'd say yes.
Mexicans.
A lot of Mexicans in Texas?
Really? Don't be racist, Michael.
That wasn't being racist. That's
How is that a racist statement? He's
Just say people of darker complexion than you. Mexican people and black people. You and your dad are
Hey,
the
Michael,
two
you
most
can grab one of
racist
those
people
stools
I've
if you
ever
want
met.
to. There's a stool right there you can grab if you
I'm
want.
not
Go ahead.
racist. I'm not white, so I'm not racist. It's
How is that?
only
No,
racist
not be.
Caucasian.
Just because
How is it
I know
racist
lots
to
of
say there are
racist black
Mexicans-
people.
I
How is
know
that
lo-
racist? He said there's Mexicans down there. How is that racist?
No, he said no. What he said was, "I'm not white. I can't be racist," which is completely wrong. I know plenty of racist black people. I know plenty of racist
This
Mexicans.
should be fun.
I do know a lot of racist black people. Trojo's one of them.
No, Trojo
He
is
hates-
definitely not racist.
He hates Polacks, man. He hates them like the devil.
No, I like anyway.
Okay, that's
Michael,
true.
when are
He
you
does-
coming home?
Beginning of April, probably.
Beginning of April?
But,
That was last month.
Sorry, beginning of September, end of August.
So listen, I've been doing.
He's your son.
Shut your mouth. He is my son. I'm very proud of him. Shut your mouth. I've been
When
doing.
are you coming home?
Actually,
2
2
weeks
months
ago.
I've been doing garbage on the property for mom and dad. They don't work. And the sooner you come back, the sooner you can take that over because I'm done doing it.
Oh, you're not having fun?
No, I'm not having fun at all. I have stories I'll tell you tomorrow.
Is she paying you $20 a
No,
week?
she's not paying me. I do it for them for free, and you shouldn't charge them. You shouldn't charge them to do the garbage for them anyway.
Hey, Michael. Michael,
What?
settle down. Now you're out there on what? You're out there on a religious kind of Mormon thing.
No, not really.
Well, then what the hell are you
I
doing?
mean, the people I work with down here are pretty much more Mormon, but
Pretty much
I'm
Mormon
down here
or are
working-
Mormon?
Okay, yes. Everyone down
Okay.
here in Houston is Mormon, but 95% of the company is Mormon.
Okay, so you're down there actually just working for the company. What do you do? What do they got you doing down there?
I'm working as a pest control technician.
All right, well that's awesome. That's and what a place, Texas, to learn pest control. I'm here to tell you because that state sucks when it comes to that kind of stuff. And
yeah,
and
it
you
really
got
does.
your
I
work-
actually can't argue that part.
Yeah, you got your work cut
I'm
out for
from
you there.
Dallas, man.
You kid,
Texas suck when it comes
yeah.
to bugs and
I got-
pest and oh my god.
I got to tell you, and listen, your dad here, he wants you to know. Now, next weekend, he's going to celebrate Easter, and
your
he's
mouth.
gonna love the hell out of it for you, man.
Michael, will you do me a favor before I let you go?
Yeah.
Will you go outside and stand on your front porch or right out on your front stoop or whatever you got there and yell something out for me?
Maybe.
No,
I want you to yell at the top of your lungs, Tony Romo is a homo. Can you do that for me, please?
He's down in the Houston area. Of course, they're going to agree with that.
Oh, that's true. Never mind, Michael.
Say
Don't
Jake
matter.
Locker sucks. Oh, sorry.
No, Jake Locker's in Tennessee.
No, Jake Locker still sucks, dude.
Bite your tongue. Michael, I love you.
All right, love you too.
All right, call me tomorrow.
Oh, I love you too.
It's my kid.
That's,
Shut up.
bye.
That's
All right,
a
goodbye.
fucking promo right there.
That's
gonna
right. It's
go-
my
I'm
son.
I'm going to cut that out, and that's going to.
And you'll be happy if your son is 20, almost 21 years old, still telling you he
I'll be
loves
happy
you.
if my son lives to 20 or 21 years old. That's what I'll be happy for.
All right, so Michael Sharoni has joined us.
Hold
in
on
studio.
1 second. I got to take a 30-second break.
Take your break. Take your 30
What are you
second
taking
break.
a 30-second break for?
Just take the 30-second break. We have to take it.
Why?
A cigar, man. Leave
Take
me
the 30-second break and don't bitch about it. We have to take it.
Shut up, Kevin. Just take the break.
All right, go ahead.